Hey there, welcome to episode 23 of Killer POV. This is Rob G. I'm one of your co-hosts from FEARnet and Icons of Fright. To my left is Elric Kane from Inside Horror.
Being played by?
Elric Kane?
Oh, I was going to say AJ Bowen, one of my favorite genre actors.
You?
If I could have cast someone to play me today, it would have been him.
It would have been him.
But that guy's blowing up right now with like a couple movies, so chances are we probably won't get him for a while.
Yeah, he's on the way up. He's a huge celebrity.
At any rate, his hairline's receding way faster than yours.
Rebekah McKendry, everybody!
Oh my God, how did you get such a deep voice, Rebekah McKendry? That is not true. Rebekah is on her way. We hope.
Right. I think she's having another baby. Or
yeah.
Getting another PhD. Wink.
Oh my God, yeah. So we don't know why Rebekah's late, but that's what's happening. That voice you heard is actor extraordinaire, star of this.
Do it. Say it slowly.
All right, let me try to
Look
be an actor.
me in the eyes.
I want you to name every one of his films as you introduce them.
I'm going to try to be an actor now. The star of Creepshow 3 of the season.
You should definitely not be an actor.
The star of The Signal, The House of the Devil, A Horrible Way to Die.
When you get to the pearly gates, what will you hope they say?
They will say...
I just stonewalled you.
It just killed it. You pulled an Eric right just then.
Yes, our very good friend AJ Bowen is with us today. Welcome, AJ.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to get in here around the 250th episode mark.
Right.
He thought
really
this was
plumbed
the
the
Adam
depths.
Green show.
What's that?
He thought this was the Adam and Joe show.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we got him.
No, yeah. So AJ is a good friend of all of ours. I guess full disclosure, he's probably my best friend. I see him pretty often.
This is getting really emo.
If you, well, sorry, it's me. If you listen to the show, I've mentioned him before, and the thing is, one of the fun things about pretty much all the guests that we've been trying to bring in is rather than do the traditional interview sort of thing, because AJ's got Your Next coming out August 23rd. And then The Sacrament, which is Ty West's new movie, just got announced for both Venice.
I prefer to call it my movie.
Your movie.
That's fine.
There you go. Your movie just got announced for that. But it's always fun. It's more fun to talk it. Like when we personally talk to these people outside of the show, we know what big genre fans they are and we know what movies they like. And I think the reason AJ and I became such good friends like almost a half a decade ago at this point is because we have a very similar sensibility in terms of movies. And I'm not just saying this because he's here or because he's my friend, but I sincerely think he's probably the best actor we have in the genre right now. Elric, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, Ryan Reynolds in The Signal. It was kind of amazing. Though he didn't get a big enough role in that Devil movie.
That was actually AJ, not Ryan Reynolds in The Signal.
I can take my shirt off to prove to you how much I'm not Ryan Reynolds.
The 20-pack. Funnily enough, the first time I met AJ was producing a show called This Week in Horror. So 3 shows ago.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, and he knows this is coming.
Do it.
But the interview we were talking about, and we're talking 3.5 years ago.
Two?
It's only 2. Okay, but it feels like a long time.
Yeah, you
ago.
say 2 only. That's 24 months.
2 years, and he was there, and he had just finished your...
No. Sorry, Alex ruining this story.
Yeah.
I was just getting ready. We had just sold Your Next at Toronto. I was just getting ready to go to Fantastic Festival.
Yeah. And so we were all really excited.
Lionsgate already owned the movie.
To see it. And then it's 2 years later. Yeah. But that is not a bad, usually with movies, that is a kiss of death. And in this case, it's actually something that I don't know, for me, the anticipation's a lot higher.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't mean expectations are going to exceed it for like fans like me, but I think it's going to be.
You haven't seen it?
I haven't seen Your Next. No.
He hasn't
That's
seen it
boring.
All right, we'll skip that one.
But you generally did think when you first saw The Signal, you're like, oh, that Ryan Reynolds guy's really good in that.
Yeah, genuinely. When I first, I saw it when it came out, and I didn't really know Ryan Reynolds' work, and I definitely hadn't seen AJ before, so I remember just going, oh, he's really intense in this.
It made Ryan Reynolds cool for half a second.
It did, and then I saw.
Did you like me in the Amityville Horror remake?
I didn't.
I'm sorry. I was too cut.
Yeah, you're too cut at that one. But no, I think anytime you don't know someone in this, and LA's small, and we all get to know each other, and that makes you maybe like people's work a little more. But I think because I didn't know you up until even after A Horrible Way to Die, we still hadn't met. all of those films, I hadn't actually necessarily connected as the same actor. Especially House of the Devil. There's no way when I saw House of the Devil that I knew that was the actor from The Signal. Didn't make the connection, yet both made an impression. And I remember saying to people, there's this couple scenes punctuated that really kind of shock you.
Yeah.
And the great thing about House of the Devil as a film, one of the reasons I like it so much is he plays with he keeps holding the tension back. You know, she goes up, looks through every door and cupboard, nothing happens. And yet then when violence comes, it can come out of nowhere. Rather than the parts where traditionally would
it makes it more effective.
Exactly. Or just interest. It just was unique. And that was the film. Anyone who's been following this podcast, I kind of fell out of love with horror. As a kid, we're all probably equal VHS nuts, but I think in my mid-20s maybe, as a film, just when I was becoming a real film buff and studying at school, I kind of fell out of love with it, to be perfectly honest, for quite a long period. Maybe it was around the start of Saw. And when I saw House of the Devil, it had been kind of in that period where I was maybe a little less interested for a while, and House of the Devil was literally the film that got me I was like, I have not seen a film like that for a long time. It just sucked me in. The slow burn was reminding me of a film in the 70s.
Yeah,
you know,
I remember your movie brought him back to horror.
I remember telling people, I think I've talked to you about this, because Rob actually came to visit me. We had become friends at that point.
For House of Devil, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just for full disclosure, I did not know AJ when I saw The Signal, and I genuinely thought that his performance in that was like from start to finish. I mean, everybody in that movie is really good, but AJ really stood out to me, and I was like, who the hell is this guy? I got to keep an eye on him. And at that point, I tracked down a lot of the guys from The Signal, ended up doing a little bit of coverage for Fangoria, and we had become friendly, and then Fango sent me to do the set visit for House of the Devil, which is, I think, one of the first times we got to really hang out.
Yeah.
Because you were the only dude I knew, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. So
we hung out all night, and then Rob tried to get me fired.
That was an accident. I didn't really do that.
From what?
I took a picture of him in the makeup room with the witch's head that pops up in the ending, and I had gotten a little bit of pressure from Fangoria in terms of delivering something early. And I was like, well, I took a picture on my phone of AJ with like a prop, and they're like, yeah, let us get that. And I'm fairly certain this is why Ty West still hates me to this day. I gave this picture, and Fango posted it. And there was a complete shitstorm because apparently I was giving away the ending with the picture of the witch or whatever. Right. So anyway, you didn't really get fired, but they were not happy with me apparently.
No, I had already shot the movie at that point. They couldn't fire me.
Retroactively. And it clearly didn't hurt your relationship with Ty.
Yes. Yeah. So
Ty doesn't like Rob. Well, let's make that
Ty doesn't like me either.
I don't think Ty likes anybody, does he? I mean,
Ty likes Ty.
He's
I'm kidding.
I want a special thanks.
I'm about to get into a world of shit because I got to promote a movie with him for the next year of my life.
All right, that's what we didn't actually bring AJ on just to tell him how special he was.
No, it's good. We should keep talking about that.
But the point of me bringing all that up is because we appreciate AJ's work as an actor so much. Our topic is our favorite performances in genre films. It's like, let's talk about other actors that we all collectively think have done some amazing work in the genre. And there's quite a lot.
That honestly, that's something that like Rob and I have spent literally hours at my house dissecting things and then going back and rewinding and watching them again. I don't want to jump on the conversation here, but it's something I was thinking about a lot, knowing that we were going to be talking about this. And you hear a lot about, well, there's actual good performances in genre because normally genre, the acting is questionable. And I started really thinking about that because I've just always had a lot of goodwill about the work that I did, and always would kind of be self-deprecating about it, and be like, oh yeah, well, it's a horror film, so it's not hard to just not be terrible. Just show up and know your lines and you're halfway there. But I started thinking about other genres, and to be fair to horror, most of the acting in most of the movies is mediocre. And most of the time, that's based on mediocre writing and mediocre editing, miscasting, and thinking about...
And non-professional sometimes. Non-professional actors all the time.
Absolutely. No budget, non-union.
Yeah.
But we had been speaking a little bit about these conversations that are coming up about, horror's back, and now they can have real actors. And I was like, fuck, I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm going to have to figure out something else to do with my time. But it's not fair because there's a commitment level to performance in horror that at least me as an actor that had no money, that had no connections, that just grew up loving specifically horror more than any other. I just kind of lucked into making those movies. And what it provided me was the ability to play complex, interesting characters. And I wasn't responsible for the budget. So I was able to get these great roles that were well written, that if they hadn't been called a horror film or if they hadn't been shot for $50,000 by guys I went to college with, Ryan Reynolds would have done it, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a little unfair to the genre and to people that act in it. And also there are a lot of actors that fake it, pretend that they're part of our community, but it's really a marketing strategy for them. But for the most part, I think there's better acting in genre. Like we were saying, it's like, how can you shit on a genre that has so many Academy Award winners in it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been that way.
But it's usually the last bastion. It's weird. It's usually where they end up in their career, like Joan Crawford or George C. Scott. It's not usually where they start. It's hard to...
True.
Just for directors or writers or anyone, the industry is always telling you not to go become a horror writer. I think it was Drew or somebody was telling me recently that, people would come to you and say, don't write that horror film because that's all you get to do. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense as on a labeling platform, but, good work's good work. You hope it will be rewarded. But yeah, I mean, look, from all the shows we've done, usually we write a few notepad kind of notes, and today we came with scrolls.
Like all of us have scrolls of performances.
Because
and
once you start looking closer, you realize that that's why you love the genre.
Yeah.
It's the actors are lifeblood of any movie, but in horror more than anything, I think they're the things you fall in love with. You think people are in love with Evil Dead or Bruce Campbell half the time. When you really go back and look at it, half the time Evil Dead 2 is about Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
And how much you enjoy watching him.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that I would say about genre acting that's slightly more unique to genre than to other modes of storytelling in film. My mission as an actor, and I didn't realize I was doing this for the first 5 or 10 movies I was doing, you have an opportunity in genre, and I really think that an actor worth their salt needs to be trying to create an iconic character. I think successful movies, especially in the genre, are wholly iconic. And for me, for better or for worse, it's okay if there are failings from my performance. But what I'm going for is to do something that once it's out there, you don't go imagine somebody else being able to do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of you're talking about Bruce Campbell. A lot of these great genre performances are iconic, and they create an identity that exists within you and your friends in conversations over years. That's how some of us can become friends so quickly, because we had similar experiences.
Shorthand, it becomes a shorthand.
In completely different parts of the world.
Yeah, right.
But instantly have a complete language to communicate with each other. And a lot of that has to do, for me at least, with these performers that went in and created iconic things.
And I do think an important thing you touched on, and we won't get into it too much this time, but it also is the writing. Like, you realize that, D. Wallace Stone with a really poorly written script is an actor you hardly notice or sometimes almost seems cartoony. Then you put her in one of the films that will be on my list, in a role like Cujo, and you go, this is so grounded, it's so emotional. It's one of the most believable roles I've ever seen in any movie. As a mother, it's like, yeah, that's a mother. That's what a mother would do. And that's and you realize, but with bad writing and bad, poor directing, that performance never gets seen anyway. So they're all it's all linked, But today, and also you're talking about going for iconic roles. I think one thing me and Rob talked about today was we're going to skip Robert Englund and Freddie, and even top of my list will always be Jeff Combs and Reanimator for me in terms of just that pure entertainment factor.
Yeah.
But I think we already
Jack and the Shining.
Jack and the Shining.
Those are given. Everybody knows those are great performances.
So we're gonna move beyond that for this. So if anyone's listening, going, "Well, I can't believe they haven't talked about that."
No, it's obvious. We know they're great. And
if you want elemental and really simple stuff, listen to the Joe Lynch, Adam Green podcast on this network. They'll talk about all the intro level horror stuff, and then when you graduate, come dance with the big boys.
I didn't say any of that. I just want to, for the record, say I didn't say any of that.
That was AJ. That was Adam Barnick.
Blame it on Barnick. Do we want to just rattle off some stuff? Because we'll wait for Rebekah to get here, and we can do a wrap up of what we've seen in the last week.
Yeah, we can do that at the end. Let's do that at the end.
We're just in the conversation at this point. So I just want to rattle off a couple of quick names of performances I appreciate, and then if you guys want to interject or
you better not say the ones that we talked about that I'm going to talk about.
I'm not. I will let you talk about those because I know which ones you.
I'm going to need about 90 minutes So
I'm going to start by talking about the battery. I want to start making. I'm a son of a bitch.
So let's see. All right. Recently, in the last couple of years, I wrote some notes here. Colin Hanks did an amazing performance in this movie called Alone with Her. It's several years old. I don't want to say it's hard to get. I remember it came out. It's one of the early found footage movies before that was a big fad. And I really liked it because it was about this like obsessive guy that he was into electronics and and surveillance, and he obsessed over a girl, and the whole movie is told from his perspective of stalking this girl, like through like cameras in his bag, and then he sets up security cams in her apartment, and he's able to manipulate her life just by paying attention to what she does and learning her routine and stuff. It's a really, really creepy movie. And it didn't really get that big of a release. It came out on video. It had a really cool teaser poster for the festival run, but then they swapped it out with it almost looks like a Hills Have Eyes type of cover, something that's like, or When a Stranger Calls type of cover. And it's a disservice to the movie because it's really good. But it was one of the first times I really noticed Colin Hanks as not just, he's trying to be comedic like his father, or he's doing this or that. It's a really creepy, amazing performance. And quite frankly, it was before Dexter. And I didn't really like the sixth season of Dexter as much as the other seasons. And I think it's because I was spoiled and I saw how he already hit his kind of psycho mark in that movie earlier.
Well, it was so interesting. So many people didn't see it, but it was such a huge misdirect because it came real shortly after Orange County. As a sort of arrival for Colin as a performer, you know, stepping out from his father's shadow. Yeah. And so I remember when that one came out.
Alone with Her,
whoa, this is not what I just saw with Jack Black.
That's the thing. It's like right after Orange County, you're like, whoa, I guess he is a good actor, you know? So I wanted to mention that one.
Can I give him a quick props for this story? When I saw King Kong in New Zealand, I went to the local movie theater. And we all got in line. It was midnight, opening night, and the ticket taker was Colin Hanks, wearing the cheesy usher costume. And he was like literally going for hoping no one would even know who he was. And he literally tore everyone's ticket as they walked in. And a few people would go, "Oh, you're," and he would go, "Yeah, hi." But otherwise, he just played it completely straight. It's super impressive.
I like that.
It was really cool. It was really cute.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Nathan Basil, Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon has got to be. I mean, again, not to keep tooting AJ's
possibly
horn,
but possibly the best genre performance of the past 15
of the last decade.
Years, easily.
I think so. I mean, if you haven't seen Behind the Mask, definitely see it. It's a great loving homage to kind of all of the 80s horror slasher movies we grew up to, but at the same time it adds to it. It's got an interesting commentary and all that.
Has he been in stuff since? I haven't seen him in anything besides that.
Not really. I don't know. I don't know if he's done features.
He's done some TV.
Okay.
He was on that show Invasion, which I think might have been before that.
And the older guy went on to be Walking Dead. Major character Walking Dead. His name just...
Of course,
Cold Blood.
Yeah, his name.
Scott.
Yeah.
Scott Wilson. Oh, look who joined us.
Speaking of great performances...
Okay, so Rebekah has just joined us, thankfully, because I don't like doing shows without Rebekah or Elric.
I really missed you guys while I was away. It was sad.
AJ was excited to see you walk in, right?
I know. I love AJ.
I like you so much better than these guys.
You've got really good hair.
And thank you.
Yeah.
It's not thinning
it's good
in the
hair.
front, like Elric's.
No, not a bit. Hair.
All right, I'm going to shut up
because
according to Elric in the break, I was dominating the conversation.
It's all been romantic stories about him and AJ.
You're such a dominant.
Leaving us out.
Fine.
No, we're talking about Leslie Vernon. Behind the
Vernon was the last one,
Okay.
And I'm just going to rattle these off really quick. Christopher Walken in The Dead Zone. I've already said that's my favorite Cronenberg movie, my favorite Stephen King story, and my favorite Christopher Walken performance.
Well, let's not rattle anything off. I don't think we should just rattle off.
Okay.
Let's figure out why we like these. And I also want to talk about like ones that maybe most connected to you, moved you, or kind of like surprised you, because I think that's what we're looking for. I'm looking to be surprised by films now. I've seen enough movies to not need to keep seeing movies at this point. So if I see something that really stays with me, it's usually because something shook me up or surprised me. Like I only saw The Entity about 3 years ago, and when I turned that on, I was watching like 3 films a day, working at a video store, and that film literally shook me out of my comfort zone and made me go, "My God, she went there!" Like that was a fully committed, physical, emotional, damaged performance. You know, and you remember remember that.
Yeah.
You know what my favorite performance is in the She Went There line? And I'm not saying it just because she's one of my really good friends. Amanda Fuller in Red, White, and Blue.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
She
I
did.
love it. And I love you dearly, Amanda. But you were a damn good actress in that. Aside
That's all
from that.
around.
I haven't seen that one.
So-
Yeah, Mark Center
Oh,
and
Noah
it was
Taylor.
Noah Taylor.
amazing performances.
You
but
love it, Rob. You love it.
Yeah, I got to check that one out.
Amanda blew me away. But it's one of those films that you don't really think you're watching a horror film until the last 15 minutes. And then you're like, holy hell, they went there.
No, I don't want you to look at my list, AJ.
So AJ was trying to cheat, I guess. I guess you'd
trying
say.
to look at Rob's list.
I've got my own list. Like I said, it just has my name over and over.
But
and
let's
over.
so even though let me just steer it before we go to the Cronenberg, let's just quick round table, one each. A performance that just knock your socks off. Took you by surprise before we go into in general what we like, because I feel like we've all seen a handful of performances at least like that. That's something that just really surprised you.
Well, do you mean at a formative time?
It can be, yeah.
because-
it can be.
Yeah, either or, really, quite frankly.
Because I can pretty much zero in on a performance that turned my ear towards genre when I was 9 years old. Bless you.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, guys. I'm recovering from a cold, so I'm going to try not to.
Nerd flew from Comic-Con.
Dave passed it to me.
Son of a gun.
Gross stuff. I'm done, though. I'm over with it. So.
Go.
I'm
9
just-
years old.
I'm gonna
What did it?
I'm gonna say it just because I have to before anyone else does. And
Do it. Oh, I see the shirt.
Oh, my gosh.
I know exactly where he's going.
He has the shirt on.
it's really weird. I'm friends now with Fred Decker, and it's really uncomfortable for me to see his number in my phone because I generally have to try to avoid him, just like I'm friends with Bobcat, and I have to avoid him for the same reasons because I respect them so much and I like them so much. I want to it just doesn't make sense. I want to beat the shit out of them out of respect and steal their power, but I can't do that.
Wasn't that your thing with Kane Hodder too? You're like, I need to fight him. I need to.
No, I don't respect Kane at all.
Eat
Okay.
his soul.
I can beat Kane. He's old. Break his hip. No, I was saying that about Werner when I met Werner Herzog.
Oh, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
I told him that I was like, I really respect you, and I think this will make sense to you. I respect you so much that I want to kill you with my hands, so that I can get your power. And I want to lose. I don't want to win. I want to lose. And he laughed at me in his Werner Herzog voice, which I'm not going to try to do. And he was like, "Yeah, you would lose." I didn't even trouble him.
He was shot on camera after all. He's been there. He's wrangled with Klaus. Anyone who's wrangled with
Elric
Klaus.
does a good Werner.
I do, but I'm not going to do it right now either. He's met the real one. Maybe by the end. I'll do it impromptu.
We'll get him a couple more beers.
I was just going to say Atkins, and then it's something that
Tom
I know all of
Atkins,
us
baby.
that watch.
Yeah,
genre
we're all
stuff, and
fans.
we're going to all bring up Night of the Creeps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was really important for me because it was a movie that I saw as a preview on a VHS tape from a bunch of movies that I was allowed to watch. I remember specifically my mom rented Monster Squad, and which was the movie I watched as a kid more than any other movie.
Yep.
And this movie, I didn't know at the time, had been done before Monster Squad. And so I kept seeing this preview and it looked really frightening. My sisters are 9 and 12 years older than me, so they were at the age that the characters would have been in Night of the Creeps when that movie came out. And I remember thinking one day I'm going to grow up and I'm going to watch this movie. And then I got a hold of it. I got a hold of it at a very early age behind my parents' back. And I watched it and I just remember thinking that is the baddest motherfucker that's ever lived. And it was Atkins.
Remember when I was saying to you the other night? I was saying I thought that was the beginning inception of the most interesting man alive commercial because of the way he's introduced.
Yeah,
it's that
absolutely.
opening shot on a beach,
Yeah.
But he's unusual, isn't it? That's the thing.
He is.
Physically, he's unusual.
I mean, I don't even
for
want
a
to say,
genre.
it's almost cliche to say anti-hero.
Right.
But there's so much going on with him that his ability in that movie to be broad and intimate at exactly the same time is kind of a hat trick as a performer. Because, and what's interesting to me about a lot of the genre films that work for me is their ability tonally, not to be all over the place, but sort of to be able to exist in more than one world at the same time. Certainly, let's make it all about me. Certainly, what we were trying to do with Signal was trying to create a multi-layered universe. We weren't trying to do 3 parts where there were 3 tonal shifts. We weren't aware until people started saying that that's what we've done. But things like Night of the Creeps, his ability in one breath to, and as well the way that Fred shot it, but Tom's ability to be broad with some of the humor and then really see the pathos and the pain of the life that he lived before.
Yeah. There's some
so
dark,
real.
dark
There's
stuff
some,
with him in that
there's
movie.
just some legit stuff because it's a cool and a fun, entertaining movie that you can watch with a group, you can sort of miss seeing the pain in his eyes when he's like, yeah, I'm about to kamikaze myself, get out. Just the look on his face when he smiles at him and then he's pouring the gasoline and counting down is just, it doesn't get a whole lot better than that.
Yeah.
Do you guys, I don't know much about Tom's life. How did he, did he come onto the screen pretty late in his life? Like, what was his first screen
He was a stage actor in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Yeah, I realize I don't really know anything probably pre Night of the Creeps, Fog, that whole period.
Yeah, that's true.
Of him on screen. Like, I've never seen a 25-year-old Tom Atkins.
Yeah.
I've only seen
Which
that.
is weird, but
perpetually 40.
I showed all the Mumblecore kids this fall on Halloween in my hotel room in Savannah, Georgia. I showed them all Halloween 3, thinking I'm going to give them this gift because, they're just watching him. I went up the staircase and came down naked in a bathtub.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to show them. This is going to blow their mind. All they did was make fun of Atkins the whole movie and be like, no one that attractive would ever be a main character in a movie. And I was like, I hate you all so much.
That's surprising. I thought they'd be hip to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I'm not naming names, Joe Swanberg, but
Mumblecore just died on this show.
Yeah.
Man,
You're dead to us now.
I killed Mumblecore years ago.
That's right. You shot that girl
Shot her
in
in the face with a cannon.
Oh, yeah, there
The
you
big
go.
What's her
question
name?
is, where did you find a Tom Atkins t-shirt?
I have that shirt too.
Really? These
Yeah.
are marketed? Like,
Oh yeah.
multiple people own these?
It's
wow.
is
I've had
it a-
this forever.
It's
it a
cracked.
Fright
It's definitely
rags?
cracked.
It's not Fright Rags. I got it way back when Fango, at a weekend of horrors from Fango, I want
So
to
it would
say
have been
10
like
years
Rotten
ago.
Cotton or one of them
Something
because
like
they
that.
used to
One
do.
of those. I
yeah.
think like Sean Clark had these shirts.
I
can't
may have
remember.
bought it from Sean Clark.
Sean.
Now
Yeah,
I need
think
to
so.
poke Sean Clark. Sean
Yes.
Clark, give me a Tom Atkins shirt, please.
Yeah.
I'm going to have
good
a
rule.
Forster one. It's just going to say Forster and have his little face from Alligator with his receding
hairline?
receding hairline jokes. That's
Yeah.
I want a Clint
You just
Howard
reminded me
one
of that.
just says Howard.
From where? From which face?
I want Infested when he's like lumpy. Or it's also known as
Ice Cream
Tixt.
Killer.
I'd go for like Waterboy Error.
Oh, that's a
Clint
good one.
Howard.
Yeah.
Becca, what about you?
Well, I have always found myself, if somebody says who's a really good actor, I'm much more attracted to comedic timing than I am like ability to cry on screen. So the first time that I was actually really aware that acting was taking place, because when you're a kid, you don't really pay attention to acting. It happens on screen and you're just, watching the movie as a storybook. But Dead Alive was the first one when I was actually aware of the acting because it's so much like a caricature. It's so over the top and everything is so expressive and Peter Jackson is so in their face.
Brain Dead. Sorry, I didn't know what you're talking about because that's a bullshit title. Sorry.
Pretentious.
Sorry, Tim Baum, who also doesn't know what you're talking about.
So yeah, Dead Alive,
Okay.
Brain Dead.
Brain Dead's a movie with Bill Pullman, Bud Cort,
Oh, get out of
and
here.
Bill Paxton.
That movie's the reason it's called Dead Alive here, pal.
That's a good movie. I like that film.
Yeah, that's all right.
Adam Simon.
But whatever.
But the acting wasn't as good because
Yeah, exactly.
in Brain Dead, Dead Alive, it was like a caricature. It was over the top, and you could see when Peter Jackson moved the camera in that he was waiting for a specific facial tick to move the camera a specific way, and that was kind of the first time that I really paid attention to acting. But I was a theater nerd in high school, and my senior year of high school, we all had to do a report on a famous actress or actor, and everyone else was doing these Emmy or Oscar award winning people, Orson Welles and so on, and I did Bruce Campbell and focused on Evil Dead 2. And I focused my paper on how his entire performance in Evil Dead 2 was pretty much just him. There was really nothing else there. There was props, there was a house, but it was pretty much just him the whole time. And so I posited it as a giant monologue and almost like a one-man show. And so he was like the first one that really kind of drew me to looking at comedic acting.
Would you say that his performance was iconic?
I think I would.
Then you have just. We're going to have to do some editing. And could you remove that whole last section of the show?
No, that's all right.
No,
we
it's
can
okay.
get away
Well,
with
for
it a little
firsties,
too.
we can do
we weren't
firsties.
supposed to go for iconic.
No, but that's your first.
No.
But
I
you
was
know
saying I was saying that for me as an actor, it's like that's the ambition: is to create something that's indelible that can only exist in that only that person can ever translate it, and then it's done.
Yeah, because I would also say Quint from Jaws was another one that
Right.
I was
Yeah.
aware of early on. But again, that's pretty damn iconic.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Doll's Eyes.
You know,
Yeah.
but that's an amazing thing, though. We still have to qualify Jaws to people as a horror film.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
it is.
I think that it's a good call to call Rob. I mean, also, it just doesn't change the fact that that's just damn good acting.
It
Yeah.
is. That
Yeah.
Indianapolis speech will forever be one of my faves in film history. And then I will also say, if we're going non-iconic, Possession, but Elric's going to like wrap me across the knuckles or hit me with his
She doesn't really understand the film.
Weren't you owe somebody?
And Cinefamily doesn't.
Weren't you supposed to make somebody a copy?
If you're listening,
I'll make you a copy, AJ.
I own it.
No, it's for Cody. He promised it last one.
Cody your
Jones,
copy's on its
fan.
way.
Cody, I'll make you a copy.
You
Just
don't have a
email
copy.
me. Yes, I do.
She's never even seen the film. She just
I will beat you with
Cody,
your bad beer
she didn't
bottle.
really get the film.
Cody, I have a film print
Why are we
of
drinking
Possession.
Miller Lite
Mike
tonight?
Williamson.
And can I also bring up for the record that Possession is not an actor, and as she said, the great performance
I
of
would have
Possession.
said Sam Neill.
Not the hypnotic Isabella Johnny. Is she just chopped liver to Sam Neill? Like
like
when you say
Sam
they're
Neill
connected.
in it.
Okay, all right.
I gotta say, I don't like the way that he treats you.
It's far too familiar.
I feel so abused here.
That's what you get for coming late and picking my
repressing
favorite
me.
movie.
You steal my news every
If
week.
Rob
true.
had said Tom Atkins before he said Tom Atkins, there would have been fireworks,
No,
right?
I know 2 or 3 that he's going to say, and I'm not going to say them. And Tom Atkins is one, so I let you have that one. But you know what? Since you mentioned Evil Dead 2, really briefly, I want to say that Bruce Campbell's performance in Bubba Hotep is probably the best he's ever given in his entire career. And the fact that that movie, with as ridiculous a premise as it is about, like, you know, the old Elvis that faked his death fighting a mummy with Ozzie Davis who thinks he's JFK. Like, the fact that Bruce is like he has not been that good since. Every movie he's done since.
That's because he directs himself now, and he's a terrible director.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Can I follow that up real quick, because it's the perfect. There's something.
Sure.
I too have all of these
mapped out.
I have all these notes about pretentious bullshit. But one thing I wanted to talk about specifically because of Don.
He's pointing at Rob.
Don,
This is meaningful.
Don
it's
Coscarelli.
super meaningful. I'm looking, and here's my actor face.
Yeah.
I can do a
Don
voice.
gets good performances out of people.
What I was going to say is that I was talking to my friend, to Gentry. Jacob and I were talking about what scares us as adults.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously people are going to go into talking, I mean, once they have the parent experience, you know, that's the things that didn't frighten you before do. And I was telling him that if I were to really think about it, the only things that scare me are a certain type of energy or moment that can be captured. And in that regard, it's specific to directors, which is funny that you mentioned Jaws and we're talking about whether it can qualify, because for me as an adult, it's Spielberg's pretty much the only filmmaker who can still craft a scene that will make me frightened, like actually frightened. I know that some people don't like War of the Worlds, but that initial moment when people start turning into dust is a crazy, scary moment. And in Jaws too, when you see this tough guy, when you see Quint slide down and start kicking around, trying to stay away from the shark's mouth, it's a terrifying moment, and it is no matter what age you are.
Yeah.
And some of Spielberg's best directing is Poltergeist.
No comment. But that to me is also the same thing about acting in genre, because for me, if there's two of my favorite filmmakers that are still making movies that I've been privileged to get to know, is Don Coscarelli and Stuart Gordon, and we've randomly been bringing them some of their movies up, performances in their movies. Those are two filmmakers that no matter what their movie is, there's almost always a performance in it that we talk about as being, this is one of the great performances. And they always seem to keep ending up, these performances keep happening in these filmmakers' films. And so when you mentioned Bubba Hotep, I had actually written down something that I realized maybe nobody's ever talked about, because I was really late to, I didn't get a fresh pair of eyes on Phantasm until last year. Like, I'd seen it obviously when I was younger, but I hadn't watched it somehow. And Don and I had become really close. And I had just seen John Dies at the End, and immediately started stalking Chase, because I asked Don, I was like, where the hell did you find this kid? He said USC. I was like, you mean to tell me?
I used him in my most recent film.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
And Chase is great. He's a friend of ours now. And Don just has a great eye for it. But the thing that I was thinking about when I was rewatching Phantasm was, I was like, you know what? People don't talk about him and they think that he's entertaining, but goddamn, Reggie Bannister is real good in that first Phantasm. Again, in the same way that you're talking about Bruce Campbell, or the way I was talking about Tom Atkins, Bannister's ability to sort of blend broad sensibility and intimate to create, it ends up creating a more humane character that's well-rounded. And so I realized that all these actors that I was listing were in the same 5 filmmakers' movies.
Well, you mentioned Stuart Gordon. One that I would definitely throw in is Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah.
And he is, I mean, there's very few things that he does that I don't think it's amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, even
but with bad
show.
direction, like anyone, he can become very broad and slapsticky in a sense without guidance. So you still see when a great director, and especially great actors director like Stewart comes from theater, right?
Yeah,
is working with somebody, they really do bring out their best. The other guy in Reanimator, what's the doctor's name who passed away a long time ago? He's incredible.
Yeah, I can remember. I know what he looks like.
And again, when we're going to briefly touch on ensemble, but you realize, not many great performances besides maybe Bruce exist alone, because part of creating, like Ozzie Davis, is necessary to Bruce Campbell's character, and that's a big part of a lot of these great films. Like you'll look back and go, oh, who's Walken with in Dead Zone, and you'll realize the woman co-lead is a big reason you feel the way you do it.
Oh, and Tom Skerritt in that case in Dead Zone.
Similarly, like it's
David Gale, by the way.
Yeah, David Gale, of course.
Thank you.
In most of Stewart's films, as I self-identify as a feminist, and so what's amazing to me, as I looked at Rebekah, right? Which means I'm a misogynist. Fuck. But there's this. It's weird for me to talk about Barbara, but the amazing thing about Stewart is the female characters are powerful and still sexualized, but not objectified for it. There's this strange thing that Stewart does, and so the females that a lot of like Barbara was huge for me as a young guy, like watching her as a performer. If I knew that she was in a movie, I wanted to watch it because I was really invested in her. So like a lot of the emotion for Reanimator, when I saw it young, I realized that was the character that was my decoder ring for the film, for my sense of emotional intimacy. Right. So again, just like people like Stewart, and I know Stewart really well, and I know how he works with the actors, and there's a lot of development period. And he almost always gets really solid performances out of people, even in tonally broad things. Like the actors always show up, and even if in other films they're not as memorable as they are in his, they sell it every time in his movie.
Is there a reason why he isn't making films? I mean, I know he's had a lot of resurgence with
We've
theater,
actually been trying to make a movie together for 2 years. I've been attached to a script that Stewart's going to direct. And I think it's because the world's a stupid place full of dumb people. Right. We're just, he was doing theater for a while, and Reanimator, I think, was a lot bigger than he thought it was going to be. Yeah. And so it ended up going.
The musical is in
that's what I mean.
Broadway
so,
right now,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. And so the LA run happened, and then they went off Broadway for a little while. And talk about some next generation of actors that are fantastic. Right. Everybody's
the guy playing Herbert West in that is amazing.
Say, he's a very good friend of mine.
Graham Skipper.
A year from now, everyone's going to know Graham's name.
But Jesse Merlin,
he's great.
Killed that as well. Jesse Merlin was just
all those guys were great. Yeah. And so Stewart's been doing that. He's doing another play right now. And
he did Nevermore for quite a while too.
Yeah, and that's and that's actually why I think Jeffrey Combs, had I never seen him in that, I would have always thought he was a great actor who I really liked, but would never have necessarily known if he was a great actor.
Right.
That's
personality.
Have you not seen Star Trek?
Yeah, no,
I'm
not a Trekkie though.
Serious. Jeffrey Combs played like 6 different roles.
Yeah.
A lot of friends
he's
of mine
phenomenal
tell me that,
in every single one of them.
I ended up seeing Nevermore like 3 times.
Yeah, I've seen it 3 times.
And the reason, and that really, I mean, I always liked Jeffrey, but that sold me on him as an actor because, again, for me, it's like, you think of like acting is a job, and people have different levels of how good they are at their job. But like, I went to see that 3 times in a row, and it was slightly different performances every time. But it's like he's on stage for 90 minutes, 2 hours, or whatever it is. And like
a lot of dialogue.
Memorized all this dialogue, all these poems by Poe. And like, I'm like, man, I could never do this. I can't even memorize The Raven, for Christ's sake.
And he's not doing it for money.
Right.
He's doing it to do it every day.
That's when you realize, like, wow, this person really, like, he inhabits this.
And he was so, I guess, excitable about it. You could tell he loved what he was doing. And he gave Elric and I tickets. He gave my family tickets to come see it. And it was just one of these wonderful things.
We've talked about it before in like Rob's sort of...
He's pointing to me.
Rob's a confidant of mine.
He means it.
When I had the good fortune of going and making some movies with some cinema heroes, and a few times I've been burned where I get really disappointed. And I'm not trying to be snarky, so I'm not going to I'm not going to talk about them, but you know who I'm talking about.
Joe Swanberg.
No, I'm talking about
Mumblecore guys.
No, I'm talking about people that you've been watching for 2 decades. And you get to work with them. And it speaks to that because I know Jeffrey, and he's the opposite of them. Where I don't understand, it's such a privilege to get to make a movie, and that's your job. Is that you get to pretend, and also beyond that no matter what somebody has going on in their day, you have an opportunity that maybe you can give them a 90-minute break from whatever bullshit they're dealing with. I think that's the most that you could ever hope to accomplish when this silly business. And it's such a privilege. So many people would die for the opportunity to do that one time.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly surprised that there are people that have been doing it long enough to either not care about the gift that they have to get to do this for a living, or they've just done it so much that it's not special anymore. They're not inspired. I was on a movie. I watched a guy phone it in, and I had a kind of an out-of-body experience. My eyes rolled back in my head, and I went right up to him in the middle of a take. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And I told him exactly that. And then afterwards, he came up to me, and this man could crush me, by the way. He came right up to me, and he was like, I can't do his voice because I can actually do his impression, and that'll be bad.
That'll give it away.
So I said his name 3 times, and then he came back later, and he came up to me and was like, "Thanks, no one's ever called me a dickhead before. Everybody just kisses my ass." But when you come across people like Stewart, like Don, or actors like that, like Barbara, that it's still magic for them. Like Jeffrey blows my mind.
Yeah.
How you don't get tired and that sense of creativity that's still sparked there. I'll take a flawed movie. I'll take a flawed performance if I see a soul in there. If I see something beating and someone's trying, that's all I want.
And I was just saying last week, and it's not the best film ever made or anything, but Would You Rather is the first screen performance he's given in a long time that's almost equal to West. Like, it's a fun character.
Yeah, I gotta check that one out.
When he was in Masters of Horror, I mean, I liked his
he played that, but that was the same thing. That was Black Cat.
Yeah, he played Poe.
Yeah, it's the same, and it was the same production.
Wasn't he in a second one too?
think so.
He wasn't in Dreams of the Witch House, was he?
No, I think
that
was
somebody else.
Watch,
yeah.
No, I mean he's somebody I always enjoy watching. I'm just saying sometimes he finds a different level, and probably as an actor, it's a different level of connection for him. And Poe, he has had all this time to really get. And the other cool thing is, look, Poe's never been real to me. A lot of like Sean Keller, a lot of our friends are just like Poe fans, and I can honestly say, besides the basic stanzas and stuff, I don't think I ever really got Poe until I saw Combs on stage just going for it. When the bells, and dancing around, getting really emotional about it, suddenly it just really brought to life this guy.
It made it a person that you were like, oh, wow, I understand this person now, totally.
And you understood the darkness in a way, whatever he was going through. But so he's again a great actor. We're talking about ones that hit us.
Why don't we bring up that one, since I know you and I agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot. It's really hard. I know. I'm just really glad that
it's like 4 pages in front of him.
I do. This is hard. I'm really glad that AJ's story about being disappointed, and I'm not going to even ask you about the film. But if you had said Michael Ironside, I was going to cry inside because
I love him so much.
Because he's an actor I really just love.
He slapped me in the face the first day we made a movie together.
Oh, okay. Did he just see you at like the mall and just walked up and smacked you?
Yeah, he saw me at Red Robin and didn't like what I was.
Don't get that hamburger.
He scannered you.
That's a dude. Thank you for mentioning him, because that's exactly the kind of actor that I'm talking about.
It's just
I marveled at his awareness and knowledge about the technical elements of filmmaking, and also his place as a performer, and beyond that, what he needs to do with his energy on a set. If he was here, I would be insulting him, but I love the man.
Yeah,
and he did not disappoint at all. I remember when we met, I had been sober for 60 days, and he came up to me. He's sober, and he came up to me and he was like, "How long have you been sober?" And I was like, "A year." And he slapped me. He goes, "You're a fucking liar." And I was like, I don't know why you're hitting me, but I would never lie to you. And I'm telling you, Michael, that I'm lying. I was lying when I was only 60 days. But we spent a lot of time just talking about things that he loved in terms of performance, and I know that a lot of actors will do jobs for money because it is a job and they have to pay the bills, they have to pay their mortgage. And he talked to me a lot about that, and he understands that, but you're never going to see Michael Ironside phone something in.
Right.
So he'll understand I need to work right now so that my kids can go to school. But what's never going to happen is he's never going to do that and then phone it in.
Right.
He's great.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It does not suck.
And even though it didn't move me.
My
this
chair
one.
broke.
Her chair just exploded.
Oh no!
But Michael Ironside, a lot of people talk about scanners, and for me, it was never scan. It was always visiting hours. Just the intensity of to me, that's the real Terminator.
No, it's amazing that you say that because I'm
not a fan of that film.
No, but it's not about the film. It's not about the film. It's the performance.
It's amazing to me that so many people I know disagree about the movie. When I saw it, I thought, oh my God, this is possibly one of the greatest genre films I've ever seen.
Wow, I freaking love him in Scanners Visiting Hours.
No, I know, I get it.
He's just he's a real person in what makes him scary in Visiting Hours is they humanize him in weird ways.
He doesn't talk for the first 44 minutes of the movie.
I think that's it. He just he shows up in closets and things like that, and I'm just kind of
His intensity in that is just like, it's remarkable. You watch this movie and you're like, and especially when you compare it to the Shatner, who's in earlier scenes, who's also awesome. But
that is true.
I tried to talk to him. I tried to talk to him about it, and it blew his mind. I was like, I love that movie so much, and I happened to have it with me, and I asked him if he would sign it.
You're just walking around with it.
I had it with me when we were on set. I had it in my bag. I had because they had just put out the new DVD of that and Bad Dreams.
Bad Dreams, yeah.
And I had it, and I asked him if he would sign it, and he told me to go fuck myself. And then I went back into my dressing room the day that he left, and it had been signed.
Oh,
that's cute.
So Michael Ironsides is tough but fair.
Tough but fair.
Didn't Mary Warnoff do the same thing on House of Devil? I remember you tried. Didn't you ask her to sign Silent Night?
Bloody Night,
and she's like, "Oh, fuck you! I'm not signing that."
No, I told her that if she didn't stop being a bitch to me, that I would bring it for her to sign.
I've mentioned this story before, but we were doing this thing with Sean Astin one day for Fango, and he'd asked to bring his brother along, and I was like, Mackenzie Astin's coming? That's awesome. So I brought my copy of Garbage Pail Kids, the movie, and asked him to sign. And he was like, really? You want me to sign this? And I was like, really? This means a lot to like 12-year-old me. It's like the coolest thing ever. And he actually begrudgingly signed it. But and I wanted to bring the Willies for Sean Astin, but I didn't have a VHS with me.
That would have been rad.
I know.
I think when just totally off, Griffin Dunn in American Werewolf in London was one of the first times I really I saw that young. And first time, Dave Norton's good. But when Griffin Dunn is like in the movie theater and stuff, you're just like, he's just incredible. He's just so funny.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about. No, I think it's exactly the same thing that Rebekah's talking about Bruce Campbell in Evil Dead 2. It has to be his movie beyond the totality of how much Bruce is in Evil Dead 2, because Griffin's not in as much of American Werewolf in London, but he's entirely, and it's not just the structure, the writing. You would think, based on the structure of that movie, that Naughton's character is the one that you've got to be behind the entire time. But I don't know anybody that says that. Instead, they're behind Griffin.
Yeah, he carries the film.
Because
he really does.
He's the heart of it.
Right.
And you feel everything through that character. I mean, think
he's more humanized than
Barbara.
Death. Yeah.
Barbara and Jeffrey. But Griffin, too, in that movie is like, my gripe with that movie is I just want to watch more Griffin.
Yeah, more Griffin.
Can I get a sequel that's just his experience?
Well, and then you can go watch After Hours and feel great, because that's my other favorite
or
film.
Who's That Girl?
Really?
Oh, After Hours is like top 10 all time, forever.
If
somebody doesn't like After Hours, The Burbs, I just don't trust them.
The Burbs, okay.
Fundamentally
the Burbs,
don't trust them.
I completely agree with.
Those are two films for me.
Dante's magic.
Yeah. And Griffin went on to be a pretty good director. Like his romantic comedies had good performances. He's decent.
Icons Rob G is liking Instagram photos of mine during...
I'm posting it.
He's not concentrating.
Are you Twittering as we talk?
I'm not.
He's like looking up cat videos, isn't he?
We're going to have so many to get through, but the one that Rob was just talking about that we both had on our list is, and I only saw this in the last 5 years, because I always hated the video cover. This is actually funny. We always talk about VHS Habit, Fessenden, but I hated the VHS cover because I thought it was like a junky movie, and I just avoided it.
It definitely looks like that.
It looked like a punk, and I don't know how it was sold here, but in New Zealand, I always kind of looked at that video cover and go, I don't want to see that. And it wasn't until I'd seen everything else that one day I was like, all right, watch it, and it just like floored me, and I was like, okay, this is one of the best indie.
I mean,
it felt like Cassavetes going horror. Just.
Well, I mean, obviously, we're all big fans of Larry Fessenden.
Did you guys talk about Beneath yet?
Not yet.
Okay, good.
We'll talk about it at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. But his performance in Habit is definitely by far one of my favorite genre performances of ever. He's just so goddamn good in that movie. And the fact that he wrote, directed, starred in it.
And it was one of his first films too.
It was, but also the version that was released was like the second time he made it.
Yeah,
Like,
he made it on video.
He made it on video,
like a video film for himself.
So yeah, it's pretty amazing. It really is.
Also, and again, a lot of the people we've talked about today. Hold on, he's gonna do a Shatner.
Are you calling Larry right now?
Hey, Larry, it's AJ. Was just calling to let you know that I'm doing a podcast at Geek Nation, and everybody's talking shit about how terrible you are, especially in Habit.
Oh, come on.
I love you anyways. Call me. Send me.
We love you, Larry.
Send
Come
me
on.
some
We love you,
selfies.
Larry.
You know it's not
I
true.
tweeted about how damn good your movie was today.
No, he does look like a thought out Jack Nicholson at the end of Shining. But
I think that Larry is potentially one of the best advocates for independent genre film that have
By
existed.
far.
Yeah.
By far.
If not the, I'm trying to make sure that I'm not shitting on anybody. I didn't really call him out.
But also,
No, I was actually
a
getting
lot
it
of
out for
people
someone.
don't realize that it goes beyond just horror because he was also the co-producer
He's
with
why
Kelly
I'm here.
Reichardt for a bunch of her films, and she's
Yeah.
off lighting the indie world on fire and making really great
Yeah.
character pieces as well, and then coming and directing his own horror film.
And I have to say, Larry was one of the people who really pushed me to make a movie. It's just weird. We were sitting at a bar in New York one night and he was drunk as piss. And I don't even know if
rare.
I know. Isn't that strange? And I doubt he even remembers saying it, but he told me it was in New York at the time. And I was like, it's so hard to make a film in New York. And he was like, there's never going to be a perfect storm. You just do it, Becky. You just do it.
Yeah.
And they're just like, you just do it, Becky. You just do it. I don't do a very good Larry, but
Larry
and
doesn't even do a very good job.
it depends on what he's drinking. So, but yeah, and he said that to me, and it was just kind of made me think, yeah, there's never going to be a perfect storm. And 6 months later, I made my first short.
Before I made a movie, Larry, when he was starting to make stuff, Larry's name would mean that I would watch the film. And when I was starting out, Larry was, I remember writing in journals. People still do that occasionally. I don't anymore. But back then, his name was written a lot. He's why I know Ty. Why Ty and I work together. Why Ty has a career. But the reason that he got to start letting people see his work was Larry.
The Roost.
Yeah. And Larry gives everything of himself to get behind someone, no matter who they are, if he believes in them. And also he just believes in the power of advocating art and a specific viewpoint. He understands that not every movie is for everybody. It's weird. I guess he's kind of an actor. He's in Your Next, out August 23rd from Lionsgate.
Oh, I didn't know
love
that.
seeing Larry.
Yeah,
in
Larry's
I didn't know he was
things.
in that one.
Larry's
Okay,
in
that's
it
cool.
too.
I knew Ty was in it, but
Yeah, I've seen him in so many films, and it's always one of those things where like I'm watching the film and I'm like, Larry's in this one again.
You know
He's
what?
in like everything.
He's the reason I watched The Battery.
Oh, is he in that too?
No, his voice.
Oh, his voice.
It said Larry Fessenden's in it. And then I was like,
was
where the fuck is Larry? I just keep hearing him. I don't like listening to Larry's voice. I want to see his pretty face.
There was some cop movie a couple of years ago that had, I don't even remember. It had like a female cop, but it was like a cop drama.
The Brave one.
That
with
was it.
Jodie
That was it, the
Foster,
Jodie Foster one.
He's like a villain in that.
He's the villain in it. He's the kidnapper.
Wish.
And I watched
Jodie's
it
Death
just
Wish.
to see
Jodie's
it.
Death Wish.
Yeah.
attempt. There's weird. I want to talk about like less of the ones that blew us away, but there's performances that I've seen in some films that stick with me forever from the time I was a kid to now that get under my skin and like make me feel tingly. And one of them is not the person everyone always, when people talk about Hellraiser, Doug Bradley, Sean Chapman, the guy who plays Frank. If you ask me right now, the best performance I've ever seen in a horror film, I would put that at the very top for me personally, because I can't explain in the words. Because every time he's on screen, it kind of does something.
He's
to
creepy.
Me. Like,
He's creepy
but
as
when
hell.
he's actually in the full makeup and he's kneeling and there's lightning, there's something about him that just completely brings me in.
You know, look me in the eye.
What's
The delivery of the line "Come to
After
Daddy"
the
will
signal.
stick with you.
It's Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds? No, but there's just something about it. And again,
no,
it's not somebody whose career I follow. I've never seen him. I've never noticed him in anything else. I didn't even know his name. And all before I came to the show, I was going, oh, well, Frank in Hellraiser, because I think about that role all the time.
Yeah.
I think about it's intoxicating. I saw a photo of him now. He's balding, kind of chubby. Didn't but that's how you know he's a character actor, because back then he was this really good looking chiseled dude. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's one of those roles that got, and I think they're the most
Get it.
interesting horror roles. The ones that get under your skin, and you don't know why it's not Christopher Walken. So there's no reason to have been drawn to it.
Yeah.
From the star system, it's
The person who repeatedly had those creepy roles for me was Everett. Oh
Everett Scott McGill.
Everett McGill.
I know you're in there, boy.
Yeah.
I'm coming.
From Silver Bullet to then he was in People Under the Stairs. There was
Iguana by Monty Hellman.
And him
long
in
story there.
Twin Peaks. It was just like repeatedly throughout my childhood, he was like that creepy guy.
And obviously one of the scariest movies ever made, Heartbreak Ridge, starring Mario Van Peebles, directed by Clint Eastwood.
Wow.
Nicely done.
I knew there'd be a Mario Van Peebles reference tonight.
Mario Van Peebles in Jaws the
comes up
Revenge
here.
is
Man.
not one of my favorite horror film performances of all time, but it really got under my skin.
Oh, yeah.
Jaws 3? Really?
Jaws the
Four,
Revenge.
the Revenge.
4.
that
That's when
Michael
it's
Caine?
chasing the grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mario Van Peebles.
I have the novelization
Good
of
one.
that. I highly recommend picking that up. It makes a lot more sense.
That's the
of
one in
Even
the
the shark
Caribbean,
doesn't
right?
blink.
What's that?
That's the
Don't
one in the
blink.
Caribbean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
but
Bahamas, to be
but
specific.
Michael
That one always
Caine.
annoyed
Michael
me
Caine.
because the mom was an artist and that's all she did was she made like junkyard art, but they lived in a really nice house.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's so weird. It's
the 80s,
so weird
baby.
because Dennis Quaid played that role in Jaws 3D of Michael Brody. And he was a dumb jock mechanic who just happened to work at SeaWorld and he was real scared of the water. Cut to Jaws the Revenge, which came out in 87. Jaws 3D was 83. So in the 4-year turnaround, he turned into Lance Guest
Yep.
and was a marine biologist
Right on.
with a beard.
It's pretty awesome.
I do think that's awesome. Yeah.
But that's
Jaws
not...
the Revenge, everyone.
Jaws the
And
Revenge.
Bahamas.
But do you guys have ones like that, like lesser known
wait.
actors who you just never forgot?
I'm gonna set AJ up for this one. There's a movie that I introduced him to
Very true. But
2 years ago, 3 years ago, very recently.
2 years ago, because it was after I quit drinking.
And and people are gonna think that we're joking, but we're not joking. I brought the movie over because it was out of print at the time.
And do you
showed
remember,
it.
I had told you...
I had to leave it there because AJ was like, you need to leave this and I need to watch it over and over again. And he watched it
I have this
3
thing,
times in a row.
There's this subgenre where I own every type of this movie except this one. And I don't know if you guys have saved any movies for yourselves where I'm saving this movie to one day watch.
I've never seen
Can I test to see if I
Phantasm.
get this right? Not the film, but the subgenre for you?
So go for it.
Christmas horror.
Yes.
Boom.
Oh,
Somebody
man.
reads Twitter.
And
I don't know which film.
I
I don't
own
know.
everyone. I own Region 2 stuff that can't play on my DVD player. I've got Christmas Evil.
Do you want to see who's on my list?
Really? Christmas
I've got a
Evil's
little
hard to
name
find.
right there. Proof. Brandon Maggart,
Nice.
which is Fiona Apple's father.
I was about to get real pissed off at you if you said the name I'm about to say.
No.
Thank you, Rob. So there's this one I've been waiting on. Rob brought it over. And it's weird for me to say that. My all-time favorite horror film is Black Christmas.
Yeah.
A
Olivia
lot of
Dehaas.
reasons why.
Understandable.
A lot of reasons why. Every reason that comes from the moment the first frame happens to the end is the reason it's my favorite horror film. But that being said, I never was into Silent Night, Deadly Night as much as everyone else. It's the same reason that there's a lot of horror, like Rob and I, when we disagree about films, we don't disagree about whether they're good or bad. We just disagree about whether or not I can watch them. Because if they're mean-spirited, it's hard for me to watch. I don't know why, because I'm totally amoral. I'm not a good person. I love watching people in pain.
You're like the Salo of people.
But I can't watch like movies where people are being cut up and gored out. And so Silent Night, Deadly Night, I thought was really mean-spirited, and I wasn't that into it. But I'd been hearing since I was very young of this mythical movie.
Oh God, did he make you watch part 2?
Oh yeah.
Not
The guy's
me.
like entire
No, not
acting
me,
career
not
is
me.
built out of his eyebrows.
No, wait, just wait. Oh my God. You don't understand. Even
She buried the lead.
You understand. He actually, yeah.
See if I think I knew I was going to remember it so hard that I didn't even need to write it down. Yeah, I don't have Eric Freeman's name anywhere in my phone. I don't have to because
you
he's
know
inside
him
my
that well.
heart.
It's inside his heart. But no, you don't understand.
You should really describe this.
Those
I
eyebrows
shouldn't.
are there forever.
I brought it over and AJ didn't want to watch it because he's like, well, I don't like Silent Night, Deadly Night 1. And I'm like, you don't understand. This is like Silent Night, Deadly Night 1 edited better. So it's like all the mean-spirited shit is taken out.
Yeah, and I remember-
then there's new footage that's just so out of control, you will not believe your mind. And we watched it and he was watching the Silent Night, Deadly Night 1 stuff. He's like, you're right. This is better edited, but I still hate it. And then once it became all about Eric Freeman, he's like, wait a minute. And that's when he's like, you need to leave this here and I need to watch this over and over again.
Well, we got to garbage. We got to garbage day.
Garbage day.
yeah.
It's such a sacred line now, but
We got to garbage day, and what did I do, Rob? Right after it happened the first time.
You rewinded it like
Yeah.
800 times. And
Yeah.
then you also said, I think I recognize the street. We need to find it immediately.
And then the
I think
other
it's
thing
somewhere.
that I did was we watched the entire movie right away again the same day, and then I forced him to leave it with me. And I remember telling him,
and then he disappeared for like 3 days to watch it over
He's
and
just
over again.
watching it in repetition.
And then he called me up to tell me, he's like, dude, he's like, I know people make fun of Eric Freeman's performance, but I think it's so good that it transcends. And he actually convinced me of this, which I'm going to let you
Maybe
do
it's
to us
like
now.
Nicolas Cage like. I could
There was a
go
commitment.
with that.
There was a well. I just remember.
Commitment.
I remember. I kept telling Rob. I was like, "This isn't a joke right now. I'm being very serious. This isn't some."
He's like, I've seen acting.
This isn't some hipster bullshit, Rob. You know that one of my least favorite things is ironic joy.
Right.
I don't believe. I mean, I've had this line for years. I don't believe in so bad it's good.
Right.
I believe in so good it's awesome.
Yep.
I fucking hate people that qualify the things they enjoy.
Right.
I don't believe in the concept of a guilty
Right.
pleasure unless you're talking about something that's morally reprehensible.
Mm-hmm.
But so with movies, if you like it, I don't need to qualify that.
Right.
And I realized while I was watching it, like my serious face came on while we were watching it, and I was like, "You gotta fucking be kidding me, man!" And then he pulled the thing up on YouTube of Eric Freeman and how many times his eyebrows bounce.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, but the thing is, if acting's conveying feeling and thought to an audience, he just did 170 of them completely clearly. So yeah, maybe this is the only thing that he can do." And we looked for him. I looked for him. Because
After that,
I
like,
remember,
we got to find this guy.
Has he
remember
done other
anything
stuff?
else?
no, and he
disappeared.
hides because
And was he an actor
doesn't want
before?
People, no.
he was
Theater or
trying
anything?
to be.
Okay.
Man, we should get him and have him on the show. Do an
Hey,
interview.
hey,
won't be able to
Welcome
find
on
him.
in.
You won't be
And we
able to
should bring
find him.
AJ so we can talk about what a fantastic performance it was.
Well, I told him, I was like, I got to find this guy so that I can make him understand that I'm an actor and I don't think that it's funny what he did. That I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe he doesn't have range to do anything more than this before. I don't know because I didn't get to see anything else. He did like 2 other.
Did you talk to the director?
No.
No.
No,
And
he
it's
did-
funny because there's a commentary with the director, and they almost kind of make fun of the whole
Which is
thing.
some bullshit because he's a lot better than they are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Fuck
yeah,
you
yeah.
guys.
Right.
Yeah. Can it's like, because so when I came over the 3 days later, AJ's like, dude, come over here. I got to show you something. And he put on the garbage day scene again. And it's like this shot of Eric Freeman coming over a hill, like laughing.
After
at the
he
gun.
tells
yeah.
the girl, "That's okay."
Oh yeah. The little he like kills everybody randomly, but the little girl like bumps into him and she's like, "I'm sorry," and he lets her go. And he showed me the scene of him coming over the hill, and like he just like is serious, and then he starts maniacally laughing and is just coming over the hill. And AJ's like, "Dude, watch this really closely. Look at how many emotions are going through his face right now."
And you understand every single one of them.
He's laughing. He's crazy.
This is like the Zapruder tapes for AJ.
Oh man, now I got to rewatch this film.
I
This
know.
kills me.
Oh my
I've
God.
never
He's
approached
like,
it
do you
like that.
understand the level of acting that's happening right now as he walks over this hill?
I have
Okay,
this thing.
maybe,
There's so
again,
much acting per
I'll go
frame that
back.
he does. He does the most
Per
acting.
frame, yeah.
I'll go back to the Nicolas Cage theory where he is so good he is actually transcending some
That's
type
what
of
I'm-
plane of acting
That's
that
what I'm
we're
saying.
capable
Like
of
the
understanding.
the tone of the
But
film,
not every role.
The tone of the film's silly.
Yeah.
And I can see why anybody and why I'm really way in the minority on it about Eric Freeman. If I had seen that performance when I was a kid, it would have been as fundamental to me as Atkins. And the reason, and I don't know that there's a body.
Sorry,
Rebecca almost spit
I
her
almost
water
spit
out
my
of her
water. I have
nose.
never heard anybody call that film fundamental.
I didn't. I called Eric Freeman's performance.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Not the film.
Okay.
Fundamental.
Even
Hey, you're
that's
talking.
a little spit
You're talking.
takeish.
I have a.
He's gonna call
He's
Larry
reaching.
Fessenden
He's
again.
calling Larry
He's go- no,
Fessenden
he's
on
going to
this
his
one.
wallet. No,
he's
he's going
got
to his
his.
wallet.
Do you have an Eric fan club?
There you go.
He's holding his
he's got his SAG-AFTRA.
SAG-AFTRA card.
Yeah.
Which he's late on the dues.
Shit, I wish it had Eric Freeman's picture on it. He's probably not even in SAG, nor was he for that movie. But for real, like beyond the, like by yourself, like not with people, because it was so. Rob had an unfortunate experience with me because I was like, no, fuck you, I'm being really serious right now. Then
I'm still questioning your sincerity on
Ask-
this one.
You know what? If you watch that scene that he pointed out to me, you're going to be like, maybe he's on to something.
I don't want to watch it again.
Maybe he's
oh
so-
my god!
I'm
Okay.
really hypercritical of performers, and what he did in that movie. Nobody. My thing is, if he had been, what are the words there? I'm not saying that he's a good actor.
But he's not in on the joke.
But
He's not
he's-
making a
but
joke
he's
out of
He
it.
gives the
Committed.
most
Right.
He's so
sincere.
committed.
He's giving the most sincere 1,000% effort. That if he was a better actor, he would have fucked the whole movie up.
Okay.
But what he did in that one movie, that one time, had such a clear pathos in every single moment. I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen anything like if you take out the if you take out the kitsch factor of like watching it with your friends, like if you seriously sit down and watch Eric Freeman after the garbage day shit, like still in the end of it after he's like garbage day, I have the t-shirt.
Yeah, right. Me too. You got it for me.
Yeah, happy Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa. But it's seriously like I was like I could write a thesis on this. I could try to get a master's degree on this because it's like it's broad as hell.
Yeah,
but it's so clarified.
I mean, he's like, can you picture anybody else in that role? He's like, this movie would totally suck in every possible way if it was somebody else. Or if it was actually,
if there was anybody that was rolling their eyes in the performance or in on the joke,
yeah,
which I hate,
wouldn't work.
That was my problem with Birdemic too.
Yeah, you can't be in on the joke.
Wow.
Yeah,
yeah, things have to be made initially. From
there needs to be a sincere
But that's why
effort.
Troll
I'm okay with failure.
Is that way. Like me and Rob sometimes would argue about so bad it's good in the sense that a film like Troll 2 isn't so bad it's good. It's just amazing to the person who made it.
There's so much
he did
joy
not try to make a bad film.
Devil's advocate.
He never tried to make a bad film. Sharknado is a bad film, and that they're making fun of the whole process of making these kind of films, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
Whereas Mendes made Big Ass Spider trying to make a good movie with limitations, and that's why it's a good movie. You know what I mean?
But Attack of the Killer Tomatoes Part 2 was ridiculously self-aware and is still great.
That's true. I do kind of like Return of the Killer
It's
Tomatoes.
really
Clooney's hair is amazing.
Clooney's
Yeah.
hair is amazing. And it's actually really funny.
You're bringing back you're talking about the whole Aston clan.
I know.
You're bringing it back.
That was my heartthrob.
I think we need to do some round robin. Otherwise, we're not going to get to all these amazing titles.
I know.
So shall we ensemble?
Let's Well, what are some great ensembles?
Okay. I'll kick it off. I really like the ensemble in Cube. There was not like
Cube.
a single person in there that I was like,
yeah.
And they all really carry their own, and I thought that they were all really phenomenal.
Especially the dude from Penn. He's on my list somewhere for best performances. The guy that Vincenzo always casts. What's his name? David Hewlett.
Mm-hmm.
He's awesome. Penn's great. I mean, The Thing is probably my favorite ensemble acting. Like actually how everyone is connected in that film because they're all potentially the Thing and they're all dangerous. I mean, I think that's
my tie with Black Christmas.
I have Black Christmas. Great. I had two.
No, I mean that's my tie for favorite horror film of all time.
And I like when we talk about ensemble, all the villains in Near Dark. But not really the leads. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of a funny film. All the people like Paxton, Henriksen, and who's the woman?
Jeanette Goldstein.
They're incredible.
I like to call her Vasquez.
Vasquez.
Vasquez. They're incredible. But the film is a little weaker at the lead than some films. So yeah, those are two of the ones that struck them.
I do not have ensembles ready because I didn't think of that. But if I had to throw something, you know what? I was just reminded of Frailty. Matthew McConaughey.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And I mean, Bill Paxton, I mean, it's his directorial debut. I really love that movie, but Matthew McConaughey in that in particular is, I mean, I know AJ's a big fan of him as well and has defended him from the beginning of his career.
Who?
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
But Frailty is just one of, it's one of those underrated gems in every possible way.
I didn't love it, so I should maybe revisit. I saw it when it came out, and I was like, "Oh, it's all right."
You know why? Because to me, it's like it's so rare that we, especially because we've seen so many movies, it's so rare that I see anything that actually scares me. So if there's like a single moment, and there's one moment in Frailty that made me jump, and like terrified, and because it did that, I appreciated the whole movie more. And I'm like, you know what? I wish Bill Paxton would direct more. That's a good one. But yeah, I'm gonna go with McConaughey in that one. And anything Clu Gulager, by the way, just because Clu rules.
You think Clu Gulager is the best ensemble?
No, just a single actor. I just wanted to bring him up. Wanted to give love and respect to Clu before the show was over.
I was trying to think of ones that were not like necessarily standard bearers, and specifically me as an actor is like how I almost make money. The Last House on the Left remake, the cast in that is pretty solid. When I was thinking back about
Is that Tony Goldwyn from
Tony
Ghost?
Goldwyn.
He just kicked ass as the guy.
Aaron Paul's in it, right? From Breaking Bad.
Pre-Breaking Bad, Aaron Paul, my friend Sarah Paxton.
And Mr. Deadwood.
Awesome
Mr. Deadwood, what's his name? He's fantastic. The blonde guy.
Garrett Delahunt.
Garrett, yes.
They're all fantastic in that movie.
Yeah, I forgot about it. That's
what I'm saying.
It's not a horrible remake.
What people remember about it is the microwave, and so then it ends up being like for me. I would have said when I was watching it the first time, I remember saying, "Holy fuck, High Tension's possibly the best horror movie of the past 30 years." And then the third act twist happened, and for me personally, it pulled me out so hard that I went from thinking so excited about I'm going to march with this filmmaker into the gates of hell to going, this is my least favorite horror film I've ever seen.
That's how a lot of people felt. I felt the same way about Martyrs, where I was the whole way through, I was like, these women are amazing. And then it got to the third act and I was like, really, we're going to go that trite with it?
And it's a bummer. And I get like with Last House, like a lot of people think that last moment of the microwave is ridiculous. But they do a thing that they remove some of the nihilism from all of the nihilism from the original one. And instead it's flawed people in a doomed scenario that know they are. And so for me, that humanizes even the villains, which no one was humanized for me in the first one.
Yeah.
In terms of modern, you go modern.
Yeah. Why don't we do a quick, instead of ensemble, let's just do like in the last 5 to 10 years, any performances that have really grabbed us, young performers. I mean, that's why you're on the show.
I'm not young anymore.
Yeah, great young. Hey, go with it.
Are you thinking, or should
I? You know what? I'll throw one quick one out there. I don't like the movie that much. I have a lot of problems with it, but Mother's Day, Shawn Ashmore. I mean, Shawn's Ashmore,
great in everything.
He continues to impress me, but he is so good in that movie. I mean, between Frozen, that, and now The Following, he's a fantastic actor. But it's like he was the one person in Mother's Day that made me really feel. But it also highlights the problem with the film, which is like you're watching it going, should have had one character. It should have been a couple in a house, and he should have been the couple. Mm-hmm. You know, him and Jamie King. The rest was negligible. You know? Yeah, but just props to Shawn Ashmore.
Mine will shock you guys. Lovely, it will. Lovely Molly, because I hate the movie. I hate.
We totally disagreed on this one. All right, her performance is
amazing.
Her performance
is awesome. Crap film. It's like gem in a...
Just ask Samuel Zimmerman.
Yeah, we don't agree on every film. Sam and I like a lot of the same things, but we don't agree on everything.
Sam's 15 years old.
I know.
He doesn't know what's up yet.
He told me last weekend he's 25 now.
No, she is. She gives a really startling performance.
Yeah,
really
movie
great.
bored the hell out of me, but she was rather captivating.
You know what's funny about that movie is that I told someone that this movie that I'm about to mention was the biggest pile of shit. And he was like, Padraig kept asking me, dude, just watch it again. I was like, I just told you I'm never going to watch this movie again. I fucking hate this movie. And I don't know what came over me. I was like, fine. I think the only reason that I went to watch it was because my friend Drew McQueenie had started to have it out with my buddy Calvin over the Rambler, and Calvin, and then I found out that Drew had eviscerated this movie at Sundance. So I was like, fine, I'll watch it just so that I have a reference point for when I'm defending McQueenie to my friend Calvin about his valid points about the movie. And when watching, I realized, oh, fuck, I'm not talking about this. The movie that I was talking about was Lovely Molly, that I fucking hate.
See, thank you.
The movie. No, I get it. And now I have to go back and rewatch that one again.
It's
but
not,
instead,
it's boring.
Instead,
you haven't seen it twice.
Instead, I saw the Pact.
The Pact is good.
And Katie Lotz in that movie held it down for me.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, I wrote her down. I was like, I got to talk about Katie Lotz in The Pact. She's fantastic in that movie.
Yeah, she's good, but I didn't care for the film. It was kind of, for me, the opposite of Lovely Molly. I was I think, again, it comes to hard taste, too, because one has slightly more comic.
Because you don't have good taste.
Right.
And Rebecca and I do.
I like that.
There wasn't enough ice cream eating scenes with Casper Van Dien in Lovely Molly. You know, it's just, she doesn't really like horror with intensity. She likes it with ice cream and Casper. So,
and along those same lines of kind of the indie people that we really liked, I saw Absentia a couple of years ago, and I started cyber stalking Morgan Peter Brown because of it, and we ended up becoming really, really good friends, and I love him dearly.
Morgan's great.
But I loved most of the actors in Absentia. I thought were really top notch.
It hasn't come out yet, and we were speaking before we started about, it's way too late to start to get into a conversation about qualifying what is, or defining what horror is. I know that the film's going to be marketed as a horror film, so I'm going to consider it as part of this discussion, but I personally don't think that I think it's more of a thriller. I don't think that it's too good to be a horror film.
What's the title?
It's called Cheap Thrills. My friend Evan Katz directed it. I was going to say Mud's the best movie I've seen this year for my money. I would give it the Oscar. I know everybody that worked on Cheap Thrills. I had a scheduling problem, was trying to make it work out to work on the film myself. And that movie is, of every other movie than Mud that I've seen this year, is the best movie.
Wow.
It's flawless. I can't recommend it enough. Everybody does career best performances. Pat Healy, Ethan Embry, David Koechner, Sarah Paxton. Everybody's.
Yeah, two of those people are on the list. I was about to say Sarah Paxton and The Innkeepers for me. I know some
Pat.
people that, but Pat for me, look, this is a weird thing. This is like more of a director thing, but for compliance, if they had never shown Pat at the end of the film physically, I would have said it was one of my favorite performances. It has nothing to do with what he did. It's just the choice of revealing him as a person, and that actually really took away a bit of the power. I think if that had just been a voice performance that had manipulated that situation to the very end, it would have been one of the best films, tension-wise, I'd ever seen. Like, it just for me lost some of its power, but nothing to do with him. He's incredible, and that and Innkeepers. But my other favorite performance isn't so much a young actor. In Kill List, Michael Smiley, who's the second lead.
Yeah, he's the most interesting part of the movie for me.
Yeah, his performance in that's mesmerizing.
That's one of those other rare ones that I disagreed with Sam on. I wasn't that into it. I really wanted to be, but I was like, this is, for me, just kind of about nothing.
I haven't confessed it to these guys yet, but I rented it on Netflix. I watched about the first half an hour. I still have it on my Netflix.
Well, it goes in a lot of different places.
It does, and so for me, it doesn't settle in anywhere, so there's nothing for me to be following.
It's a pretty weird one. Yeah.
But I can watch it and get that people are really into it, and specifically for me, like the way that we were talking about Griffin Dunn in American Werewolf, that dude,
he's incredible.
That dude in Kill List, I want him in every movie.
Yeah, he's incredible. You just want to keep watching him. And British. And then when we, non-young, one of the performances when we were talking about the ones that really blew you away, another one I always forget about is Edward Woodward in Working Man. Just blew me away because I grew up in New Zealand. Equalizer was one of the big. It's always when you grow up in a weird place like that. That was like prime time. Everyone watched Equalizer, where Edward Woodward would go around getting. He was basically Death Wish, the TV show.
Yeah, but I loved the Equalizer.
Yeah, but then no one really talks about him as an actor, and then you see something where he's playing. He's just so internal and just holding it all in The Wicker Man. It blew me away how good he was in that. And that's just, again, it's cool when it's an actor who you don't follow, you don't really care for, not really that interested in their career, but then you just see them in one thing that just floors you,
Cast the Mist, black and white.
Oh, yeah. You watch in black and white? I mean, I know that's what they tell people to do.
Yeah.
It is. It's I like it.
It's a complete
black and white.
I made a movie. Rob's, I think, the only person that's seen it.
Yeah.
And we made it in black and white. I was a producer on it.
I've hassled you about it, remember?
And I studied,
I'll show it to you.
For 6 months, I studied Twilight Zone. I mean, I'd already seen every episode of Twilight Zone, but I rewatched them. And then I started noticing there was a very different style of performance in the black and white, and also at the era. So I knew we were making this never wear movie that sort of had a similar vibe to that, or some early Lynch. Not Joe Lynch, by the way. Love you, Joe, but not Wrong Turn 2 style, not Matthew Carey Holmes style. An earlier Lynch.
He was texting me this whole time asking what we're talking about, by the way.
We're talking about him.
He can wait till Friday.
Wait, he's coming on here?
No. This will air on Friday.
Better not be, because I'm a bounce.
Here we have standards.
Yeah. So that movie clearly, so I noticed we made the movie, and the director, who was a first-time director, got nervous, and we shot it digitally, so he went back over and made everything color. Ooh. And the difference in performance in my work was, pun intended, night and day. And it was really wooden and dumb in color. In black and white, it was nuanced. And right around that time was actually when The Mist came out. And I saw it in color and was like, I love Darabont. And then I saw it black and white and was like, oh my God, it's like they watched it. Like the performances are not wooden anymore.
Did he want to shoot in black and white?
Yeah,
he wanted to release in black and white.
Right, so that's very
valid.
valid.
The agreement that he was going to get to.
Yeah.
And then they didn't. Okay. And so on the DVD, that's why anybody that maybe doesn't like The Mist, I highly recommend watching it black and white, because you can watch the performances of Marcia Gay Harden and Tom Jane are so 180 degrees different. And also it's a scary movie in black and white, and not because of the colors, because like all of the CG stuff was designed for the palette.
Right. Well, that's the thing. The CG, it's funny because CG, like when it's not that it's like my one problem with that movie is like the first one or two CG scenes are really bad. But it's like CG's like, it's a shadow thing. Like if you can't get shadows right in CG, it doesn't look right. But in black and white, it looks flawless.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you don't want to see it in high diff, right? You don't want to see it clear.
Well, that's the thing. It's like something about not having to worry about shadows and color makes the CG like almost flawless. And you're like, oh, so it works so much better as a black and white film. Yeah, I agree with that.
Round robin. Quick. Just let's throw some out.
I have a couple. I've been deleting as we go. I'm almost out of shit to talk about.
All right. Well, we'll do that, and then we'll go to our
yeah.
movies.
Like what are some
What
like
we've
there
seen
must
this
be.
week.
I mean, I got a list.
Yeah, shoot through your list.
Let me just
Yeah,
start with
let's hear it.
if we talked about almost number one, and this is going to surprise you. Almost number one for me is John P. Ryan in It's Alive, the first film.
Yeah.
because
Wow.
I think that is one of the most. I don't know. Having had have a 2-year-old now, I think that got the fear of having a child of any kind or responsibility of any kind better than any film I've ever seen. Not the part even where the baby comes out. It's more just about being, I'm responsible now for something. It doesn't matter what that thing does. It's because of me. And there's something in that guy's face. I've seen him in bit parts his whole career.
Yeah.
And people always go, Michael Moriarty in Q the Winged Serpent. He is great, but there's something about, I think John P. Ryan in It's Alive is the best performance Larry Cohen ever got. And something about it stayed with me for a very long time. And then obvious ones, George C. Scott and The Changeling. We were talking about that before, and that, and Vincent Price and Witchfinder General. I mean, that's, I don't like watching it at all. I don't even like watching it.
It's a very unpleasant film.
It's not a film I'll probably ever rewatch, but I remember when I saw it, I'd never seen that side of Vincent Price. It's the only time I ever felt like he was completely connected to something that wasn't a little campier, for
It's the same thing for me for Serbian film, where it was the most unpleasant film I've ever watched, but the guy who played the lead in it was amazing. He was just a brilliant performance. I will never watch that film again.
Clu Gulager, we talked about this before. I saw a film last time I was in New Zealand, and I hadn't seen, I think Hero's called The Offspring, but there is From Whisper to a Scream.
Yeah, From Whisper to Scream.
And it wasn't even a very good anthology, but the story that he was in, he's got these big, thick glasses, and he is having a relationship with his sister, which is his actual wife in real. It's one of the best performances I just didn't even know who it was. I had no idea that was the same guy who was in Last Picture Show and Return of the Living Dead. It was just that good. And so when I met him for the first time here, that's all I wanted to talk about. And John was kind of surprised by that. But it's really fantastic. And then one more I'll throw out because it's something that less people have seen, and if it means you're going to watch it, Haunting of Julia, Full Circle, starring Mia Farrow, I think is a better performance than Rosemary's Baby. I think I would
agree with that.
It's incredible. Wow. It's just a really original. Drew was the one who told me to see it. I hadn't seen it before. Drew Daywell. It really has stuck with me. I think it's one of the best films I've seen this year.
I own that, and I've never watched it.
It's just great. It's just a really interesting slow burn horror. I think it's.
I've never seen that one either. We should watch it, Rebecca.
We should.
It will be on a certain list for a certain magazine coming out soon about hauntings.
You can talk about it.
I can? Okay.
Yeah.
I did the top.
We've released
10
it on
list.
the web. We released the previews.
The top 10 haunted house or hauntings list for Fangoria.
Yep.
And I was putting on
Shit, I was
random
supposed to do.
Yeah, I think I emailed you, AJ, and was like, "Can I have a quote from you
I'm
about your
sorry.
favorite haunted house?"
The problem is that I'm like getting really, really famous.
And then he
just
didn't
so
respond,
busy.
and I was like, "I guess he's too famous for me
I'm
now."
I'm verified on Twitter now. I'm really
everything,
popular.
yeah.
I know. It makes me
We
sad.
almost didn't get him for this show. That's how.
Wow.
famous
I know. I almost sent Chase Williamson in here.
Too easy to get.
Chase didn't come when we invited him.
He was probably stoned.
I think
was
he's too busy on an Adam Wingard film right now.
Oh, yeah.
From the look of
Been
it.
there, done that.
you've already
Thrice.
And if you're bored tonight, and if you like 1920s movie, the other best performance I've ever seen, Lon Chaney Sr., The Unknown, where he plays, it's like the most heartbreaking film I've ever seen. He's obsessed by Joan Crawford, and she has a fear of, because she's been attacked by a man, she has a fear of men's hands on her.
Yeah.
So he's a knife thrower, and he's been pretending to not have arms. He really gets them amputated so he can be with her, and then she doesn't want to be with him. She wants to be with a strong man. It is one of the most maniacal performances I've ever seen. He's already one of the best actors to ever live. In that film, it's like a whole different level.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, it's like an hour long. It's truly incredible. That's and again, it comes down to life too. You watch one of the best films I've seen is the documentary about his life. That and the Buster Keaton story are two of the best documentaries. And that one about he came from mute, and one parent was mute and the other parent was deaf. And basically grew up in that world of kind of silence.
It sounds like a bad bar joke.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's incredible how he learned that physical acting, physical performance. And it's really good stuff. But there's so many. Those lists are kind of insane. And no one's even brought up Oliver Reed once, which is ridiculous. That just shows what an embarrassment this whole night has been.
Well, then quick, what's your favorite Oliver Reed
Burnt
performance?
Offerings. But it's the weirdest. Aren't you a Devils fan?
I am. I'm a huge Devils fan.
You're a non-exploitation fan?
Yeah. Well, that somehow ended up, it was weird. I wrote one article once about nunsploitation, and apparently no one had ever done one before, so I became a nunsploitation expert overnight.
Nice.
Just because I watched like 20 of them. And so I ended up, publishing a book or chapters at least on them. But yeah, Devils is one of my favorite films. But in it, I'm not as big as Oliver Reed as much as a Vanessa Redgrave.
Right. No, that's true. He's kind of, he's a little more static in that. But he
just plays swarthy.
She's got a future.
Vanessa Redgrave. I see her going it's like,
I guess one thing we could say about the horror industry with a lot of these.
Like you, AJ. You come back. We sit over here. It's cool.
From Atkins to some of these people we've been naming, it's interesting that there was a time where adults dominated horror films.
Oh, yeah.
Donald Sutherland, Don't Look Now.
From our youth is when I think it started to change.
Yeah, it was. Friday 13th, Nightmare on Elm
Even
Street.
still, one of my favorite acting performances going like very adult would be Betty Davis and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
It's a great performance.
It's so amazing.
Yeah. No, they're both great in that. But it's true. It's something I miss. And we're thinking about Robert Forster and Alligator. You're just like, and now you would watch that same film and it would be Ian Ziering as a surfer when a Sharknado is about to hit. It would be that's how they cast it now.
Yeah.
For me, the sincerity level is, if the sincerity level's there, if there's a sincere effort, I can forgive a lot of flaws.
Right.
But once you're basically telling me to go fuck myself when you're trying to get me to ironic, look how shitty this thing is I made. Isn't it cool how shitty it is?
Yeah.
And I'm like, how hard it is to make a movie? Why don't you just try to make a good one?
Yeah.
It's okay to fail because they're really hard to make.
Yeah.
That's why I won't watch Sharknado.
Yeah.
That's why I rant whenever I get a press release that says the next Ed Wood.
I know you go
Good
on
Christ.
I go
Ed Wood
on rant about that a lot.
That man's
She's like,
magical.
stop trying to be the next Ed Wood. It's like a
He
terrible
didn't want
thing
to be Ed
aspire
Wood.
to.
He wanted to be Orson Welles.
Why can't
He wasn't
people
Ed Wood,
just try to be the next Don Siegel?
Right.
I want somebody to be like, I really want to be the next Paul Mazursky.
I just saw Charlie Varick for the first time and it knocked my socks off. If you haven't seen that film, there's your Netflix rental
Which
for the
one?
day. Charlie Varick by Don Siegel. It just blew my mind like a week ago.
Who's in that?
What's his name from Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3 and Grumpier Old Men? Walter Matthau.
Walter Matthau.
And it was actually and the cool thing about it was
it was a Jawa.
It was, no, but it was a robbery film that was written obviously for Eastwood to be like the big hero, and at the last minute he couldn't do it, so Walter Matthau took his place.
That's great.
And it just changes it shows you what the power of the right actor.
Yeah,
it's a totally different movie. It's so great.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, he's good.
All right.
Okay, guys. So what did we watch this week? I know we all watched Beneath.
We did. We finally, me and Elric got together and watched.
AJ's just blown away how the things just changed around him.
We're done now, AJ.
We're done with
moving
that.
on.
Unless you want to mention anyone before it's over.
Yeah.
You got 5 seconds. No.
Guys.
Okay.
I was just going to say Murder Party.
Oh, you should,
That's good.
pimp that, because not a lot of people know about
I don't know that one. Is that the one with the guy with the...
Yeah, AJ's the one that introduced me to that movie, and it is a really cool little movie.
I saw that when it first came out.
It
I was one of the ones who
like
reviewed it for Fango.
$31,000.
The scene where the guy is sitting on the subway is like the most hilarious scene ever.
And the reason I bring it up is because this was an actor-centric episode that you guys are doing. And it's a Magnolia picture. It's not that easy to find now.
I own it.
I own it. And Elric will make you copies. If you're listening to this.
We will.
You should, it's on Amazon and stuff. It's
Is it
still
okay?
available,
I highly recommend it because, and I highly recommend watching it on Halloween because it's set on Halloween. It's a Halloween movie. It's become a tradition in my house of something I put on. It just captures a spirit and a vibe, and the reason it does is because it's these. It came out at the same time as a movie that I was in, and the reason I mention that is because that movie that I'd done with friends that I grew up with, that I went to college with. So it
The
helped.
Season? What was it called?
Fucking piece of shit.
Was it?
No, it was The Signal.
Okay.
People that
Simon Signal. Got it.
the people that I
Things are about to get weird.
I'm gonna send you an email tonight about hauntings. I made that movie with my friends, and so we had a shorthand, and I think the goodwill that we get in performance has a lot to do with the intimacy that we already shared with each other. And I became obsessed with Murder Party, and they all knew each other, and they had been making things together for years. And I can't believe that they haven't made 5 movies together since then.
Yeah.
I can't believe that within the genre that everybody doesn't know their names because it wasn't. Movies on the indie level for me that really work in our genre are movies that, yes, they cost no money, but that's exactly the story that they wanted to tell. Like I would tell people with Murder Party, if they had $500,000 to make that movie, they still would have made exactly the same movie that they made, and it still would have been just as intimate. They wouldn't have changed one thing to it other than they would have been eating better in between takes. That's it. And it's pretty much a one-room movie. You cannot tell by watching it because their performance is so captivating, and the way they move the camera around in this one and a warehouse, by the way, which is fucking. If you don't make movies, it's so hard to make that shit look cinematic when it's just a big room, because otherwise it just looks like a big vacuous room. Even if it's a medium-sized room, it's hard to make it look right. And the performances across the board, male, female, everybody in that movie is real good. I don't know why they're not in a bunch of other movies.
It's shocking.
Yeah, look.
Yeah. It's. I just looked it up. It's available on Amazon. It's $8.99.
And you didn't even really plug the battery.
I was waiting. You said stuff that we watched this week.
Oh, you watched it. Cool.
I watch it every week now.
Perfect. Okay, good. We've got reason to move on.
Sorry.
Lead us on, Becca.
So I know that the three of us watched Beneath.
Yes, and you talked about it last week. Me and Elric got together and watched it. New movie by Larry Fessenden, who he directed it.
It's doing a limited theatrical right now. He hasn't announced it for a DVD release yet.
And has it aired on Chiller yet? That was the other thing we were trying to figure out. Was is it VOD and airing on Chiller?
I don't think so.
Because it was a Chiller produced movie, right?
Yeah, and I kept stopping Rob and going, see, he's really smart here because he's cutting to the lake and he knows they're going to put a fucking commercial right there. And he's not going to let them do it on the drama. It's going to be this like still shot of the lake. Yeah. And I felt that every time.
I can verify that.
Okay, see, I was feeling it the whole way through, which I thought was smart, not,
Yeah, but that said, I don't want to speak for Elric, but I think we both kind of loved it. I loved it.
I did too.
Great.
I put it up on Twitter today that I don't think you can take it too seriously. But seriously, I loved that fish.
I think you can, because here's the thing. It's like we mentioned last week. I know that Jaws is like Larry's favorite movie. So I love that he got a chance to do like a Jaws-esque movie. It's by far his most commercial type of, it's like the most commercially accessible thing he's made. And the premise is simple. It's just a bunch of kids on a lake and there's a giant killer fish. And it's never CG. It's an actual goddamn animatronic fish that's trying to eat them up. And what I liked about it is you always like, when you hear a concept like that, you're always curious, like, well, how do they, extend that? It's not really about the giant fish, but it's about how these kids turn on each other.
Yep.
And I also liked, by the way, that me and Elric were commenting when we were watching it, is they are actually kids. They're not like older actors playing kids. They're actual kids, and they're also not like Platinum Dunes style super gorgeous kids.
Well, one of them is.
The guy who's a nerd was a little annoying, because the guy who's supposed to be like the moody, like Native American, I know about.
Yeah,
he was a little too cute to be kind of.
I liked him. I thought he was
a great actor. He was just
but the big surprise was that the
good-looking,
the typical guy I usually hate in these movies, the guy who's like clearly I'm the main cheerleader guy, he was that best of all the actors, and that never happens in that genre.
Also an intentional choice.
Exactly. Super smart.
And like that's like that movie. You said the word concept, and here's something I don't get: people that say they like Larry Fessenden movies. I've heard a lot of people complain about Beneath. I happen to love it.
Yeah, I think it's great.
I don't think that we give our artists enough freedom to make. Beneath is Larry's concept album. He's plugging into a different sound. He's doing a very specific thing, and I think the people that aren't into it, it's okay to not like it. But I think the people that I've heard people be like, what the fuck, Larry? Like, you can't never call Larry a sellout, because he gave all his money to other people's dreams.
Yeah.
I think that they just don't get that. It's like Larry's making like exactly what you're saying. He's like, I'm going to make this type of thing.
Yeah. And the other thing that's impressive that Elric and I picked up on is like, look, to be candid, Chiller probably doesn't have a lot of money.
Right.
So this had to be a super low budget movie, but the level of filmmaking quality that's brought to something that we know, like there's like a whole thing with them getting the boat ready that was all like this really long, elaborate take.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sorry, but you're not going to see that on any basic sci-fi movie.
Playing. And the soundtrack was amazing in it. I love the soundtrack.
It's that like only a filmmaker of Larry's caliber can pull off a super low budget movie like this that otherwise would be like a sci-fi movie and make it really thoroughly entertaining and interesting and surprising, because there were like 2 or 3 twists in terms of like characters turning on each other and which ones died when and how they died.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised.
That Elric and I were like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. Did you?
I will go so far. I mean, it was my favorite death or best filmmaking death I've seen in maybe the last 10 years, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But because it was so Hitchcockian, so real, the way one of the characters bought it in this film, that it literally was one of the most, watching, I was like in a little bit of pain going, also because I didn't think that this particular character would die, but just sitting there and watching it, and it keeps going for a while, and you're like, wow, that was really well filmed.
Yeah, like just
really well.
Wait, did they really kill him?
Yeah, I was
wondering too, because you see his camera float away.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming that's the scene you guys are talking about.
No, not actually. We'll tell you afterwards.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Spoilers, guys. Spoilers.
Yeah.
So
We're trying to keep it
all I'll say is it
involves
rope. The death I was thinking.
Oh man, that was drawn out.
Yeah,
but that's film. That's great filmmaking.
Yeah, exactly.
It surprised me, and it's just.
And I will also say, I was cheering for the fish the whole time.
But see, that's when you guys are talking about Larry and these actors. That's what I want to see. I want to see their brain, and I want to see their personality. I want to see their vibe in a movie. It doesn't matter what type of movie it is. I just want to see that. And you can see that, all the things that you guys are talking about Beneath. You can see that. You can see there's a pedagogy behind it. It's not a fuck you sort of thing the way that Sharknado which I haven't seen. It may be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch it because I'm going to die one day and I want that 90 minutes.
Yeah. So just another movie I wanted to mention really quick that I saw. I finally watched Stitches, which is that I think it's a British movie.
That's so weird. I watched that last week too.
Did you
That came out in
with
like
the Killer Clown?
2008?
No, I mean, well, it just came out here.
Oh,
this year.
I'm confusing it with another Stitches. That's a popular title.
Yeah.
Stitches is the English one.
Yeah, the English one with the Killer Clown. And it's I've heard a lot about it, and I
loved that movie. Thank you for bringing it up.
It was pretty darn good. It's kind of a dark comedy. But you know what I was alarmed by was how gory it got. Because
it's ridiculous splatter. It's a splatter.
It's a really good splatter movie. I almost want to say, I mean, it's not nearly as gory as something like Dead Alive, but almost.
Or what's it? What else is Dead Alive's also called? What?
Yeah, whatever.
Sorry, I was
Pretentious New Zealand guy.
Pretentious, just where it was titled and then shipped to America. Sorry, guys.
We call that stuff Dead Alive around here.
In tone, it's like it had this dark comedy. It reminded me of Dead Alive, where it's like, oh, this is kind of fun, and there's a killer clown, and there's gags that are like so ridiculous that you can't take seriously, but because he like sticks up like an air pump in like this kid's face and just keeps like doing it while he does a one-liner.
So, but
and
at
the face
same time,
blows up and it's ridiculous, but it's the effects are so awesome.
But at the same time, it's so expertly structured and well performed.
Yeah.
That you're like, oh man, this person. Like I paused it in the middle and was like, yo, this person is telling me, I think you've watched Halloween. Here's my response.
Right.
And I get it.
You just reminded me of one of my other favorite performances. What is the name of the cop from
A Horrible Way to Die? Garrett Terrell was played by
No. Green Lantern. Green Lantern. You were solid, dude. You were solid in Green Lantern. No. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. The cop. What's the cop? He's the bad guy in all the 70s films, and he's also in Caged Heat. Whatever his name is. He was in Charlie Varick, the one I was just talking about. I can't remember his name. Somebody find out for me. But the cop in that, I think the cop, it just has a brilliant comic performance in that film. Like Killer Clowns is memorable for me even more because of his performance than the characters of the clowns. It's just great. Hopefully we'll get his name. But
I'm pulling it up. But what did you guys see?
This week, I saw a couple things this week.
John Vernon.
John Vernon. He's a great actor.
I saw Spring Breakers, which I know isn't a horror film, but I feel it's worth mentioning just because it is so intense.
If you got daughters, it's a horror film.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the end of our culture, so there's that.
I love it, and I hate most of the stuff that guy's done. Like I despised Gummo. I thought it was one of the worst films ever. But
like Pineapple Express?
No.
No, come on. That's not the same. Come on.
I'm sorry. I was Frank. I'm just going to sit over here quietly.
I didn't like Pineapple Express, but I understand the appeal. But no, and I thought Spring Breakers was amazing. I thought it was just wonderful. What else did I watched it? Oh, I watched Perdita Durango, which I just put my article up on that today.
Which has two great performances. I mean, that's still Harvey's.
It's Rosie Perez's best performance by far, too. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was one of James Gandolfini's best because
I didn't even remember a minute.
He's the cop who's getting the crap kicked out of him the entire time, and it's so nice. But I made a declaration this week after I started watching a couple more of his films. Alex de la Iglesias is my favorite filmmaker. He really is. Because if I think about the larger body of his work and how many of his films I just love to death, like even his commercial stuff like Oxford Murders or Baby's Room, I just think it's amazing.
Yeah, I've only seen Last Circus, which I loved.
Oh man,
and that trailer
Day
for
of the Beast you'll like.
For Witchin'
and Bitchin' looks awesome.
My favorite film of his is this little quiet one called Baby's Room, and it's not that quiet. It's just scary as shit. It is so frightening. That's it. You guys are coming over on Sunday to watch it. I just agreed. we're doing it.
I'm watching Murder Party that day. Get in line, baby.
We can do a double feature. I have both.
Sounds good.
Yeah. But he also did Day of the Beast and Oxford Murders, which is amazingly awesome.
He's been around a long time.
Mutant Action is really good. Yeah. And Perdita Durango, which was a rewatch.
Well, probably his career would be really different had Perdita Durango.
What did you say?
Perdita. That's the end of the show. Tune in next week when I get it.
Hold on, I forgot. We're in America here. We're going to call that thing Dance with the Devil. So.
But no, I think if that film hadn't been censored here and cut to shit like Possession was cut to shit in this country too, I think both of those films would be different movies.
Apparently, America is scared of sex scenes, is what I've learned.
I guess so.
Because that's primarily what was edited out of Perdita Durango was like, oh, those are breasts. We should
the rape.
those.
No, I think the rape is pretty intense. The rape scene, I think, was the thing
it's
that really.
It's still there in full.
Yeah.
Clearly, you guys haven't seen Suicide Girls, the movie.
Seconds were shaved off the rape scene. The pedophilia scene with the little girl is completely gone. The Veracruz scene is completely gone. And then they shave seconds off the rape scene.
But that's always what it is, right? Seconds. It's always seconds with the MPA.
Like you just pushed it 2 seconds too far with your rape scene, mister.
Right. Well, like Friedkin was saying at cruising when he was there for Sorcerer, he was just saying like he goes, basically I filmed all that porn just because I knew they'd ask me to take it out. He's like, people always want to know what's missing from cruising. I just filmed a bunch of porn because I knew they'd take it out anyway. It was just my way of dealing with it, And I think it's pretty funny. I mean, I do think it's always ridiculous. Like, what's Kimberly Pierce? What's her new film? Carrie? I mean, in that ratings film where she's talking about basically because the woman enjoyed it, in the masturbation scene, it gets censored. It's actually about pleasure, not even about what they show.
Yeah.
That's a power. The power of sex. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That's a different podcast.
There's a really good book called, I think it's Hollywood Hardcore, but it's about the ratings censorship specifically during the 80s going into the 90s. And because in the 70s, it was kind of anything goes. And it was about really straightening it up and allowing nudity on scene and sex scenes during the 90s and 80s. So
I keep trying to be naked in movies and they don't let me.
I'll write that in. I'm going to make you tell me about your favorite.
He puts Fassbender to shame.
That is not true.
I wouldn't know.
That was a pun, though.
Yeah, that was pretty plain. We also saw Friday the 13th, Part 7.
Oh, yeah,
I was so upset I was not there. That's the night that I got like my full cold.
Oh, come on.
That is my favorite one. That is the one with the psychic girl, and she gets the party horn to the eye.
Have you seen it in a while? Because it's one of my favorites too.
Really? I saw it. The last time I saw it was probably 3 years ago.
Okay,
but why did she go outside?
It's a lot slower than I remember. But actually, AJ, Elric, and myself were there for the New Beverly screening.
It was just the three of us.
Thank you, Jill Kill, for being
theater.
my stand-in for the night.
That's right.
No, actually, it was a surprisingly good turnout. There was a lot of people there.
There was a good turnout.
I saw pictures. It looked fun.
But yeah, if you took Jason out of that film, it would be just the way it's filmed. It feels like they're always filming theater. It always feels like it's on a stage, and they're just the way they're orchestrating the character is really weird.
Is it just like an open frame where people are walking
basically,
in and out?
And they come in and out making jokes. It's just weird to me. Like, and if you took out Jason out of that narrative and just edited those pieces together, I just kept saying after these guys, I'm like, that was literally just the facts of life. And they insert Jason occasionally, and that's the movie. And then some telekinesis. It's it just had a weird feel, but I loved it. It was a good fun.
It's fun for that last 20 minutes. And I mean, Terry Kaiser, there's a lot of laughs that I don't remember initially because we saw it with an audience.
Is that the one where Jason picks the girl up in the sleeping bag
and
throws her against the tree?
And the editor was there, and that was one of the more interesting things. I didn't actually know that about that he did like 20-something times, but they kept editing it down.
Oh yeah, he threw the girl against the thing like 6 or 7 times, the sleeping bag, and they had to cut it down to 1. But I think that's more effective. It's like Jason's so badass that it only takes 1 swing for him to kill this girl.
He doesn't need like 9.
Yeah, exactly.
Best design work on Jason.
Yeah.
Other than for Hillbilly Pillowcase Jason.
Part 2.
Yeah, number 2.
It is the best he looks because you see the battle damage.
Part 2 and 6 are my 2 favorites.
Yeah, 2 is one of the most entertaining.
I always love 7.
I like 7 too.
I gotta go back and rewatch it though.
We're coming up to the 3-hour mark on our show.
Hey, y'all got to talk about what you watch. I'll be real quick.
Yeah, what did you see?
I have to pimp something because I saw it because of Larry, and it's easily for me the best genre film I've seen of the year, and it's not available physically yet. It's going to be in the fall.
The Sacrament.
Anyway, so
he does that to everybody.
Anyway, I saw this movie on VOD, and that's where it's available right now. And then I began stalking the filmmaker. It's called The Battery. It's I understand why some people were calling it the anti-zombie movie. It's a really interesting counterpoint to the things that work and don't work about Walking Dead, or just basically what's going on in that branch of cinema and TV right now. And a big part of that for me is the lead actor, who I found out was also the writer and director of the film. Oh. And when we're talking about performances, there's pretty much two guys. They're both great. But I want to talk about Jeremy Gardner, who wrote and directed the film, because he creates such an iconic character in this film. And the film's basically about friendship. It's two guys that are experiencing the apocalypse, the zombie apocalypse. They used to play baseball together, and now they're forced, they've survived, and they're just basically leading a nomadic lifestyle across New England, just trying to survive. And it shows one person really thriving. Thanks for...
It flew out of my hand.
You can't put your phone down, can you?
No, I'm just...
She didn't text you. Whoever she is, she didn't text you. She knows you're doing this right now. I'll text you.
I'm looking at my goddamn notes.
You while I'm talking.
Continue.
But it's crazy because there's not that much zombie stuff, but when there is, it's great. But it's just a really interesting... There's a language. There's a language that exists in it. I cannot recommend it enough. I pretty much stalk and talk to Jeremy all the time now.
Is he going to be out here ever? We should get him on.
There's I don't think he's going to make it, but Cinefamily is screening The Battery.
Yeah.
In August, I believe.
Okay.
Is it August?
Yeah, we got to go. I think so.
Okay.
Oh, have they replaced their seats yet?
There's a couple more sofas.
I really embargoed that place until they put.
Is it one of their ironic screenings that we laugh at, or can we actually enjoy it?
I will beat the fuck out of anybody that laughs at The Battery. It's really well done.
I will come just to see that.
Yeah,
I want AJ to beat up hipsters. Come on.
I like to fight. I don't mind it. And I will for The Battery. I immediately called my manager and was like, I just want to make a movie with Jeremy Gardner. Go make that happen.
Nice.
But it's great. In every capacity, music's great. Sounds great. Larry's got some voiceover that's acceptable.
So how else can they see it? Is it on demand?
It's on demand on VOD, iTunes, Amazon.
Can it be seen on small screen, or do you think it's only?
Yeah. And I almost mentioned the budget. I don't want to. If anybody's listening to this and thinking about it, don't go into that, because it's exactly the same as Murder Party for me in terms of what I would say of that movie is exactly what it's supposed to be. If it cost $10 million, it would be a disservice to that film. So Jeremy figured out a story to tell that was really intimate. So the budget's incidental. It doesn't matter. It's great. It's the best acting performance I've seen in a genre film this year is by Jeremy, and the best script and the best direction, editing, photography across the board. It's my favorite genre film of 2013.
Yeah, for those here in LA, it's going to be August, is it 8th or 9th? Let me just double check. It's August 9th. It's a midnight screening at Cinefamily.
So is that 9th to 10th or 8th to 9th?
I'm sorry?
Is it that the 9th to the 10th?
It's the evening of the 9th
at
midnight.
Friday.
So what day is Cinefamily
Friday
playing?
night Frights.
August 8th? August
8th or 9th.
August 9th.
Okay, so Jump Cut's going to be trying to show August 7th. I still have to make a few calls, but it's going to happen.
Nice.
Damn you, Cinefamily. All right.
That's where I'd rather see, to be honest.
Well, since we're winding,
it'd be free. That's why.
You guys have better
Cheapskates.
food. So, but since we're winding down, I will say that after you see The Battery on August 9th, on August 10th and 11th is Scare LA.
Oh, that's right.
Big haunted house and horror convention in Los Angeles. I'm teaching a class with Ryan Turek.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
Which makes me laugh out loud. We're teaching a class on how to market your
how to
indie
make
horror
old
film.
fashions.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
How to
Instagram your Death Waltz records.
I told somebody that and they said,
how
to wear your t-shirts too tiny.
I kid, how to fabric your own Baby Gap tees. I love Ryan. I kid because I love him. He's one of the most decent dudes I know.
How to work your pecs. So anyways, so we will be teaching a class on how to market your indie horror film.
Nice.
And then I'm also on like 3 panels. Rob G is moderating one.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, but surprise, you're moderating one.
And AJ Bowen will be starring in a short film that I've curated for Scary LA by Drew Daywalt Meet. I actually chose 6 films.
They show Meet there?
Jump Cut's doing a little produced by Jump Cut's favorite horror shorts of the last year. And that was one of my 6, and so was The Dump.
Would it be
They're
awesome
showing
if
my
we
film,
knew,
The Dump, as well.
If we knew about the shorts we worked on
that's
playing
interesting.
places, that's awesome.
I don't think I've told anyone. I think
you just did. You just told us and that Cody guy who you owe a DVD to.
Yeah, dear Cody. Dear Cody, I don't want you to listen to it. I've never actually seen Possession. I'm going to be honest. This is all
poser.
Oh, I almost did a bad
Just
hashtag.
Wikipedia'd and looked at the. Don't hashtag that.
Oh my god.
He's just writing it down because he had to get it out.
No, just because I can't say it on air. There we go.
Yeah,
I almost
that's
pulled
his
one of
hashtag.
those. I almost did a.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
Boom.
That would have been terrible.
Anyway.
So
We'll write you on Facebook that one. All right. I think 3 hours is a good solid show.
yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
The cool news is, and we haven't really talked to him about it yet, but we're excited to announce this on air.
Are we?
AJ is officially part of this podcast every week now.
That's excellent.
He has signed something.
He's our co-host.
This is
I
this is
feel like
official.
we can double the length next
Just
time.
because he did not like Lovely Molly, and I need someone in my corny
he
on
does.
this one.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Before
we're
we
team.
before we wrap up, I just want to say that yes, AJ's got a couple of movies coming out. You're
He
next.
does?
You're next. Out August 23rd.
You'll know it from all of the billboards that Lionsgate has placed annoyingly near your places of business.
I mean,
I apologize for that.
And if you want to see a really good interview about your next, go to our
That's 2 years
2011 This Week in Horror show that's been canceled for a year and a half.
my favorite was the panel at Comic-Con, the Your Next Hour-long commercial.
Oh yeah,
It was
I
nice.
wasn't at that.
It was
Fassbender?
I'm not really part of their marketing plan.
Fassbender was the best marketing. He came out in that You're Next mask. So that was good.
that was good.
I've
But
seen the
yeah.
movie.
How is it?
It's available to purchase tickets for theaters everywhere, August 23rd.
And on Fandango.
Or if you come to Dead Right Horror Trivia on the 15th or the Dead Right Horror Trivia at Scare Alley on the 11th, I will be giving away free tickets to Your Next.
there you
Oh,
go. You
nice.
can see.
I haven't even seen it.
Yeah,
You can see-
AMC
yeah.
hooked us
Or
up.
AJ on
you
the
can
big
fly to
screen.
Austin with me if you want. I'm going to be there for a Mondo Draft House thing.
Oh, nice.
Oh, there we go. So that Sacrament is playing in Venice and Toronto later
Yes.
this year. It's the new Ty West movie, and almost all your movies are on Netflix Instant. If you want to, if you haven't seen
doesn't mean
Sadly,
anything by
my
that.
apologies to the people who have subscription service to Netflix. All of the films.
The seasons
He's
are
right
all
there
like-
next to like
It is not.
It's not. I thought I saw it on
Yeah.
Netflix.
And neither is Creepshow 3, and that bums me out because that's an underrated movie.
It is.
Oh boy, that's a whole nother episode. Creepshow 3.
Yeah.
Show 3.
But no,
we'll do that on our anthology film. episode.
Signal's on Netflix Instant. The Signal, House of Devil, and Horrible Way to Die. Those are
Those
my
are
three
my three
recommendations.
favorites.
I have a feeling I saw Creepshow 3 in Spanish. Does that sound
Same
like I
difference.
thought you
Wow.
Did
dubbed
they
Same
show that in New
difference.
Zealand?
No, I
Pretentious
think
one?
I think I saw it in a
only
weird
watched it
way.
in Spanish.
Well,
No, I don't
I only
understand
watched my
Spanish.
own.
It's all in the
Spanish.
eyes, anyways. You know, it doesn't.
Yeah.
There's no.
It's the eyebrows.
Creepshow 3 speaks the international language.
He's got poetry in his eyes, like Joe Spinell. I keep saying that.
Exactly.
Okay. Hey, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having me.
What's your
Sorry.
Twitter handle again? You changed it to AJ.
I
Bowen,
didn't
right?
change it.
You didn't. All right.
Somebody else did because I'm fucking famous as shit.
He got verified. So-
Finally.
Oh, you're not Len Hamhock anymore?
No,
No.
I'm at AJ Bowen. Imagine that.
I'm gonna unfollow the fuck out of this.
Annie Bowen Jones Bowen.
I'm
sorry that Twitter took your handle away and gave it to me. I did not ask them to do that.
Sucker.
They
That's what you get.
she never tweeted, so fuck you.
There's another at Rebekah McKendry. She's Rebekah McKendry 1, and she's president of the Justin Bieber fan club. I kid you not. So
Whoa.
I
Right
get
on.
tweets and follows for her a
I'm
couple
on
of times.
I'm on Twitter as AJ Bowen. I'm on Instagram where you can see pictures of me violating Rob at Len Hamhock.
Okay, so Len,
Yeah, that's
where does that
true.
come from, Len Hamhock?
It's a graphic novel I wrote about a decade ago. It's a character.
He asked me to ask him that question at the end of the show. Just kidding. I was genuinely always
I'm
wondering about
going to be
that.
announcing tomorrow the Kickstarter for the Len Hamhock story.
Yeah.
That's not true.
That's not true.
None
Yeah.
of us support
No,
Kickstarter.
that's not true. I don't
Alrighty.
support Kickstarter.
And a big thank you to Geek Nation and Brian's incredible late night patience with us.
Yes.
We love doing this show
I'm
here.
sorry.
Brian.
I sniffled through
Brian,
the whole show, guys.
Do you
It's
think
my
seriously? Do you
Comic-Con
think my
plague.
hairline is receding?
Just shiny. It's the light.
Shiny.
It's
Fuck
the
you.
lights. It's the lights and the
So
oily
there you have
reflection.
it.
God, you're so judgmental.
Me. He asked me a question.
Aw.
Being honest with the actor.
Well, from Geek Nation Studios and AJ Bowen's hair, I'm going to say goodnight to all of you guys.
Thanks for
Hashtag
having
that,
me.
guys. Hashtag AJ
Thanks.
Bones here.
Hashtag always old fashioned. Hashtag survive the night.
Hashtag Year of Bowen. That's the new one I'm starting.
You're a Bowen.
Year of Bowen. A lot of good movies.
Oh,
coming
I thought you
out,
said
pal.
you're a Bowen, like I'm a pepper.
No, year. The year.
Oh, Year of Bowen.
2013
Year of Bowen.
of Bowen. Yeah, that's what I'm going for.
I'm
Thanks.
taking my headphones off,
All right,
gents.
thanks,
Bye.
guys. See you
Love
next
yous.
week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.